The clock, Rob. Let's call it to order. Can you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Gore.
Commissioner Gorick here.
Commissioner Locks.
Commissioner Locks here.
Commissioner Walowski.
Here.
Commissioner Volpe.
Commissioner Volpe's here.
Alternate Albanese. Alternate Coles.
Alternate Coles is present.
Alternate Coviello. Alternate Stavlocool. Secretary Centego.
Centego is here.
Vice Chair Salka.
Here.
Chairman Hammersley.
Hammersley's here. I did hear from Joe Coviello. He's going to be a little bit late, and Reese Albanese is not going to be able to join us tonight. We have a quorum. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
United States of America.
and to the republic which stands,
And
one nation, under God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
liberty,
and
and
justice
justice
for
for
all.
all.
Could all please remain a moment of silent reflection. Okay, thanks. Item 6 on the agenda is an approval of the minutes from our last meeting on February 2nd, 2021. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
Commissioner Salka, is there a second?
Second by Commissioner Locks.
Commissioner Locks with a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. On to our public hearing, item 7A. Class Act Auto Wash, special permit application for proposed car wash, property located at 1656 Meriden Avenue, 291-307 to 309 Merida Waterbury Road in a B zone, SPU 643. This was a continuation from our last meeting on February 2nd. Do we have the applicant? Sev, are you going to start us on this? Sev, you got to unmute yourself.
Just while we take this moment here, I just want to remind everybody that as moderator, this is being recorded and the audio is very important that we try to maintain quality. So I will be muting those who are unmuted, but if you can try to maintain your own mute when you're not speaking, that would be great. And also, anytime you're speaking, just identify yourself, your name, and who you are, if you can. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Sev, are you unmuted now?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. You can hear me, correct?
Yes. Go ahead.
My name is Seb Bovino, planner with Cratchit Jones and Associate Representative. The applicant with me tonight is David and Colin Carabetta, Norm Baltic, surveyor, Richard Reynolds, project engineer, and traffic engineer Kermit Hua. Norm, could you upload the landscaping plan onto the screen for the commission to see?
So what was that?
No, I'm talking to Norm Baldick. He's supposed to be online to upload the documents on the screen.
Okay.
I will start the presentation while he does that. Dave Carbetta, if Norm is not available, could you upload those documents? Mr. Chairman, Commission members, the applicant is Classic Car Wash. The properties are located at the corner of Meriden Waterbury Road and Meriden Avenue in the northwest quadrant. The proposal is for a car wash with auto wash tunnels, plus one tunnel for campers and one for box trucks, and 2 self-service bays for regular cars. The proposed use is allowed under section 4-03.2B of the regulations. by special permit. The access to the facility is from Route 322, exit onto Meriden Avenue via one-way circulation. It's a two-lane entryway from Route 322, which opens to 3 lanes and then goes through the site back to Meriden Avenue. A landscaping plan was provided, which is a combination of bushes, low-flowering bushes, trees, fences, and walls. These are used to screen residential properties to the north, east, and west, is shown on sheet L1, which Norm is trying to upload. The lighting plan was provided showing that there is no spillage onto residential properties. All fixtures will be cut off with LED lighting shielded. In regard to noise, there are no mechanicals on the building roof. The vacuums are located in the southeast corner of the site. Reading indicates 50 decibels 10 feet away from the vacuums, 48 decibels at 20 feet away, and 39 decibels at 60 feet away. For the blowers, a plan was submitted, sheet SP1, showing the direction of the noise and the decibels, with the door closed or open. There's 2 readings on that plan, indicating the 2 levels coming out of the base. For the north, east, and west directions, at 100 feet, the readings are expected to be 50 decibels. For the northeast, heading toward the vacuum area, the readings are at 100 feet, 55 decibels, ranging between 55 and 60 decibels. For the south side, looking toward Route 322, at 100 feet, the readings are 60 to 62 decibels. As comparison, the road noise level 50 feet from the roadway ranges 70 to 80 decibels. 77 decibels are associated with a car traveling at 65 miles per hour. Just give you a comparison, living room music is at 76 decibels, same for a radio, TV, and vacuum cleaner. Obviously, the radio and the TV based on the volume that someone prefers. A 52 decibels reading is associated with an electric fan, hair dryer, refrigerator, or a quiet street. A conversation between 2 people 3 feet apart is in the range of 60 to 65 decibels. Based on this data, our noise levels will blend with the surrounding noise levels. Traffic engineer, and this information is shown on one of the sheets that was provided, I believe, as SP1. Traffic engineer Kermit Ua, in his report, indicates that the impacts to the local traffic is limited. The level of service will be maintained, and they are level of service C. And he has taken into account the self-service bay in his report. We believe that the proposed use for a 5,395 square foot building used for a car wash fits in this zone and at this location. The lot coverage allowed in this zone is 20%, which will allow a building of 11,614 square feet. We are proposing a lot coverage of 9.9%. At this point, if the commission has any questions for the traffic engineer or anybody, we'll be glad to entertain the questions.
Well, Seth, why don't we go through whatever you have on your plate, and then we'll go through the commission members.
Okay, the commission had question on the noise levels. I introduced to you the noise levels that we expect from this facility and what the surrounding, the roadway level noise levels are expected. And The landscaper was provided, which has generous landscaping, as you can see, surrounding the properties. The lighting plan indicates that we have zero spillage. At this point, if you have questions for the traffic engineer, I think at the last minute you had two major questions. One was the traffic, the other was the noise level. And I hope some of the commissioners had an opportunity to visit the facility in Meriden and get a sense of what this will look like. And you had questions about traffic. Despite the report, you still had questions. So if Permit who is available, he can address your questions. Maybe make a brief presentation, Kermit.
Yeah, I'd like you to present everything you have, and then we'll go through the commission members to ask questions about whatever they want to ask.
Okay, Kermit, could you have a brief presentation on the traffic?
Yes, well, again, for the record, my name is Kermit Hua, KWH Enterprise LC, 277 Reservoir Avenue, U101, Meriden, Connecticut. I'm the traffic engineer for this project. I will just briefly go through the comments that were raised of traffic issues at the previous hearing, and and give you a quick summary. And after that, I will be glad to answer any questions. I think one of the questions about the location of the driveway. The way, if you look at the plans we are having, we are, our focus really try to locate a driveway as far from the signals intersection as possible. The reason is to do that is to minimize any potential conflict with any turning traffic and through traffic at the signal. And as you can see that, we are moving as far away as possible, just on the edge of our property line, in order to reduce that conflict. The second, I think there were some questions about the trip generation. The trip generation was based on the ITE, Institute of Transportation Engineer manual. They have a survey of other similar facilities in the nation. What the manual provided us is a peak hour trips for the weekday afternoon peak hour and Saturday midday peak hour. So the study was mainly based on those data. Again, one thing I want to emphasize is those hours are peak hours of the streets, not necessarily peak hours of the facility itself. For example, for Saturday, maybe the peak hour is a little bit earlier than the peak hour of the street, which was midday, a little bit after lunchtime. And actually, by the way, that's what I did a traffic count for the Saturday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So again, we use those peak hour traffic, and we look at level of service and found a level of service C and at the main intersection, and level of service A, B, and C for the two side driveways. So that meet the town zoning requirements. I think that's as far as I can remember, unless I missed any additional comments from the commission. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, the other question you had was the UN Commission was about the hours of operation. Thank you, Kermit. So maybe David Carabetta can address that for the commission. David, could you repeat the statements that you made the last meeting regarding the hours of operation?
Certainly. Excuse me. My son Colin, who's done all the who's put all the data together regarding the decibels and regarding the traffic, I'm going to allow him to speak regarding this.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. My name is Colin Carabetta, 601 Winding Ridge. Norm, could you put up the SP1 with the decibel readings, please? I'd like to speak on how I gathered that information and how it would affect that intersection. So what I did was I took decibel readings of our facility currently to show what this facility, where the sound waves would travel at that intersection. And what it shows us is that the sound waves travel right out of the exits of the bays going towards Meriden Waterbury Ave. I'll wait till the site plan is up to continue to show you. Okay. So what I did was I took readings at our plane facility to see where the sound waves travel most, because that, I understand, is a big concern, is where is the noise coming from? Where is it going? Where is it going to be the loudest? And this shows that the loudest decibel rating is right out of the exit bays. That's the south side of our facility. Whether the doors are open versus closed does not make a big difference. The sound travels directly out of that bay going towards Meriden Waterbury Avenue. Now, by the time those sound waves reach Meriden Waterbury Avenue, we're at a level of 65 decibels. Now, 65 decibels is what that street is already showing on a decibel reader. I know this because I went out on that intersection and I took readings to compare to what our facility would push out. Now, a consistent flow of traffic on that intersection is 65 decibels, between 65 and 75. The highest rating I had was 85, and that's when a truck passes. Now, our drivers are nowhere near the 85 range at any kind of street section or property line. So again, I'm just talking about where we are the loudest, and that is going right out of the bays, right into the streets. Now, if you look at all the property lines, we are at 50 by all property lines. And that's because our most effective sound buffer is our building. Those concrete walls deaden the sound better than the doors ever could. So right out of the bays at either side of our building, that sound decibel is 65 decibels. And by the time it reaches any property line, it's at 50 decibels. And 50 decibels is about what I'm talking right now. A normal conversation between us all tonight is about 50 decibels. Now, that is not taking into account the buffers we're going to put in at those property lines, the trees that we're going to put in, the fencing we're going to put in. And I believe a fence could lower a decibel rating by 10 decibels. So at that property line, that would even bring us down to 40 decibels. Now, I want to talk again about the intersection. Like I said, that intersection is between 65 and 75 decibels. At the property lines is where I took these readings. So the intersection itself is a higher rating than our dryers by the time they reach those property lines. So the conclusion here is that our facility will make no more noise than is already present at that facility. And it's also important to mention here that these ratings are not consistent with 24/7 operation. This is only when the dryers are active, which is not 100% of the time. Those dryers are only active when there's a car in the facility getting dried. And again, this is only if we're at 100% capacity, which is not the case. Right now we're seeing pretty good 100% capacity. I know we had a couple members of the board come to see us this week, the past couple weeks, and I want to thank you for coming to see us. It means a lot that you took the trip to see our facility, and we're very proud of our facility. So thank you for coming. And you saw us on 100% capacity. So the noise levels that you were hearing, the flow of traffic that you were seeing, that's consistent with 100% capacity. That's, a car leaving our facility every minute, one car every minute tops. We want to stress too that we are not a tunnel. I hear this word tunnel a couple of times the past couple of weeks, and I want to stress that we are not a tunnel operation. We are called in-bay automatic and a self-service facility. We have 2 in-bay automatics and 3 self-serve bays. Now, what makes us different from a tunnel is that we stage cars in these bays and we wash you while you are in the parked position. A tunnel is constantly putting cars through. They're constantly entering the facility and they're constantly exiting the facility. So they're pushing cars out, one car every 10, 20 seconds. We hold cars in the facility for at least 5 minutes. That's the lowest time of a wash is 5 minutes. The average would be 7 minutes. So with that said, that is one car leaving each bay within 5 to 7 minutes. So at that exit, that's one car every 5 to 7 minutes. That is not going to cause a backup at that intersection. And I want to say this too, when I was out there taking decibel readings of that intersection, I wanted to see how that light worked because I wanted to see if we would cause any kind of backup. And what I found was that that light changes at least once every 30 seconds. It has to use sensors and timers so that every 30 seconds, that light will change green at least once. So there's a constant flow of traffic. At no point did I see more than 6 cars, and that's top 6 cars at that street light. And by the time that 6th car was in line, you already had a green and you were already leaving into Meriden-Waterbury Turnpike. So with this equation that tells us that we're pushing out 1 car every 5 to 7 minutes out of each bay, that tells us that we're pushing out 1 car every couple of light cycles. So at no point will we cause that traffic jam. And
The traffic would back up to our parcel.
correct, yes, the traffic would back up to our parcel. As far as the incoming traffic goes, we have, as you can see on the site plan here, we have plenty of room to stage cars. So, there's no doubt in our mind that we have enough room here so that there's never, ever going to be any kind of backup on Meriden-Waterbury Turnpike. See, we designed this facility, we placed it in this parcel because this is the property that we have to play with. So we designed this facility so that we would have enough room to stage cars on the incoming traffic, and we can regulate the flow of the outgoing traffic so that there is never a backup. We also designed it so these dryers and our vacuums will be on the exit side, will be furthest away from any property line. As I said before, at all property lines, the decibel rating is 50, which is, like I said, what I am now. So at that point, again, I'll say thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, please feel free.
Thanks, Collins. Seth, anyone else?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. One more thing, the sight distance at the exit driveway, it's 500 feet through the intersection on the south side, and it's over 600 feet looking north coming out. There were comments regarding drainage, which is more of a site plan related issue, but I just want you to know that Richard Reynolds worked with Jim Grappone on that issue, and the issues have been addressed by Richard, and Jim Grappone later today indicated they would like to stipulate something on the site plan, and we will talk about that at the site plan time. With that, it completes my presentation.
Okay, thanks, Evan and Colin and Dave and everyone who's involved on the applicant side. I'm going to open it up to commissioners to ask questions. We'll start with Peter Santago.
Call me off guard. Okay.
Sorry.
Peter Santago. Thank you. I did make a trip out there. I went on 2 Saturdays ago on a Saturday morning because I figured a Saturday morning would be busy. So it was around 10-ish, I want to say. And I parked my car and got out so I could kind of be nosy and kind of look around without anybody seeing me. And I'm glad I did, because in my mind, when I heard car wash, I still had Southington Car Wash over on Queen Street in my brain. That's not this place. So to me, those are two, this and that thing are 2 very, very different products. So this facility is not, I know when you say tunnel or whatever, now I understand what you're talking about. And so I saw, a couple of trucks in there. There was a guy doing his own car. There certainly was no line by any stretch of imagination. And when the doors were closed, I didn't think. In fact, until the doors opened, I didn't even know there was a pickup truck in there. So I thought the landscaping and the layout was very good. It was neat, clean. It was very professional. And it dispelled a lot of the notions I had when I heard the word car wash. So this is more of, at least half of it is, instead of washing your car in your driveway, you're going to this place because they have better washers, basically. And I can't imagine there being much of a line, since there's really an unknown time. If you get behind somebody who really wants to go to town on their car, you're waiting a long time, versus at a traditional car wash where you know how long you're going. because you could time it, when you're at Slayton Car Wash, at least I can. If the line goes out to Queen Street, you know how long a wait you have. In here, it's a little different. So that dispelled any notion I had, and there was no ice, on the drive or anything like that. So, I thought it was a very well-run, professional, run organization, and it dispelled from both a sound standpoint. I thought it was, pretty darn quiet. Of course, I didn't hear anybody on the vacuums, but as far as the facility itself, there was nothing. As far as that goes, with the doors down, there was nothing. I do have a few questions site plan wise, but I'll hold my comments in regards to that. Now, I guess my one comment for the applicant, that facility versus this facility, what's the difference in square footage? You want a Meriden versus this?
That's a great question. The exact square footage, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. What I can tell you is the Southington location has an additional 10 feet on 2 of the automatic bays as opposed to Meriden. So 10 feet by 15 feet width, roughly. But the other difference is we had more of an office area, pet wash area in Meriden. So really that's eliminated. So I would almost think they're pretty much the same, quite frankly.
Okay, because I didn't see that your facility there as really a big facility, quite honestly. There was a lot of property, but I didn't see it really as a big a footprint, quite honestly. So it was about the same, and it really wasn't. It's a big area here, but it's not a big footprint building wise for the space, because there was a big, you had a lot of property there in Meriden. I was assuming it's in terms of area of acreage there versus here. What's the difference?
You have an additional well, it's deceiving. And it's the Meriden location. If you saw the sidewalk along Research Parkway is actually city property because that area was designed for a 3rd lane a number of years ago. So our acreage between Meriden and Southington is, if anything, we're maybe a ½ acre larger in Meriden. But again, you'd have to consider the fact that that sidewalk to the road is all city property. It's actually a right of way.
Peter, you muted.
Sorry, Rob muted me. Yeah, because it was a little, when I was on East Mason, I'm like, where is this place? Because you're set back there. You have to go on a side street there. So now that's why I was asking in terms of the amount of space there. But no, I think, this is zone business. It's a business. If anything, I think, because it's a very professional looking place. It's very, nicely done. I think, to me, it certainly isn't going to detract property values. If anything, I think it goes up. And in terms of, from my perspective and seeing what you have in Meriden, if you duplicate it, and I think, not that we could tell a business owner what to put there because it's illegal for us to say that, but, just observing the type of business you have, I think if a fast food place went there or something with a drive-through, you'd be generating more in and out traffic than this thing will, just by virtue of what the business model is. And that was just, again, ½ hour on a Saturday morning, observation. So I think, if a fast food place went there with a continual drive-through, I think that would cause more disruption than this does, based upon the business model. And I was pleased that I went to see it because it's not what I expected to see. So I was pleased that I went and saw it firsthand.
Thank you.
Those are my observations, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any other questions. I do have some site plan questions in regards to traffic flow and signage and things like that, but I won't take up Commissioner's time at this thing. So I do have some site plan questions.
Okay, thanks, Peter. Commissioner Volpe?
Commissioner Volpe here. Yes, I do appreciate everything that you've shown us tonight. And I do have a couple of questions regarding what we're talking about here. Could you just indicate with your cursor on the screen for everyone where the sidewalk is located on the Meriden Avenue side? Okay, great. And so right across from that is the entrance to the gas station, if I'm not mistaken, if not parallel just a little bit. I'm just wondering what kind of precautions we're going to take just in case a pedestrian wants to try to cross that way, knowing that the light doesn't quite match up. I'm just a little concerned about that. You know, sidewalk implies that people are going to be using it. Let's say you're, you know, using your facility and you want to go run across the street to get a drink or something. I can't predict what will happen, but I was wondering if we could just address that the entrance and the exit for both establishments are just kind of a little off base.
I think from our standpoint, sorry about that.
Rob, stop hitting people.
I think from our standpoint, I believe is, you know, it wouldn't be an issue for us to have a little additional signage as someone exits the driveway. You know, it's similar to what you'd see in some of the fast food places where you have people crossing in front of the vehicles. I would assume we could, you know, establish some signage that, you know, gives a higher level of precaution as people enter the area.
Thank you so much. Like something, caution, imminent death if you cross it. No, I'm just kidding. But thank you. I appreciate that. I think my second question, because I did ask it in the last meeting, was concerning, you know, how loud it would be. And I did appreciate some of the data that you brought for us on that. But Rob, if you can hear me, I'm wondering if you have any kind of idea of what typical kind of residentially zoned, commercially zoned area decibel should be like based off of other towns. Do we have any kind of data? Because though we don't have it, you know, other towns have taken consideration into this matter. So I'm just wondering if we have something comparatively to contrast what kind of development like this would sound like for our abutting residential zone.
Yeah, I don't have any data to share on that. It's not something I looked into. You know, obviously residential uses, depending on the density, are going to have different noise production levels. You know, you know, you have, I mean, in all honesty, you have a residential area that's on a fairly busy intersection here, with obviously business zones and business uses on the corner. So there's naturally going to be you know, greater noise production in an area like that as opposed to a residential lot in the middle of a larger residential development away from this type of activity. So, you know, I don't know if there's any real, you know, you said you may have looked at some things. I'm not aware of anything that off the top of my head.
I appreciate that, Rob. Thank you. I just know that there's other, you know, towns throughout the state who do have noise ordinances, and, you know, usually what they kind of work with for residentially zoned areas is about a 45, and then moving up and probably like, you know, 10 going up from there. And I'm just, you know, I appreciate all the information about it, but to say that that area right now is already at a 65 and that this won't add anything to that, I just kind of, I'm not sure if I can really comprehend that, because if it's like a symphony and everything's playing at once, I'm certain it's probably not going to total at 65. And again, I'm not great at math, but I'm, you know, I'm great at hearing loud noises as a mom. And I can tell you that it's probably a bit louder than we're assuming at this moment. So just kind of concerned about that for the abutting residential zone that's there.
Mr. Chairman, just I want to answer Christina's question, if I may.
So go ahead.
A quiet residential street is 52 decibels approximately. So that should give you an idea. And a conversation between two people 3 feet apart indicates that the decibel level could be as high as 65. So that gives you a sense where we are. Our facility produces 50 decibel towards the residential areas and 60, 65 toward the roadway.
Thank you. I just want to make sure, though, to clarify that we're talking about the same thing, right? A car vacuum, an industrial vacuum to clean a car, right?
Yes, yes. The vacuums, I indicated what the vacuums are. let's see here. Yeah, the vacuums, the readings that Colin took indicated 50 decibels 10 feet away from the vacuums, 48 decibels at 20 feet away. And
Hey, Steph,
yeah,
let me, I'd like to interject here briefly regarding the decibels of the vacuums. So first of all, our vacuums are actually, they're housed, the motors themselves are housed inside of the vacuum unit. So it's actually, it's not as loud as your typical shop vac or household vacuum. That one is much louder, but ours are housed inside their own entities. So those motors that are running, they are much quieter. They are, as Seb just said, they're at 30 to 40 to 50 decibels, where if you turned on your vacuum at home, it would be probably 60 or 70, depending. I don't know what everyone's different vacuum is, but what I can tell you is that ours are quieter than your household vacuum. Also regarding the noise, let's maybe Kermit could answer this better, but that traffic is pretty consistent. I know if we look back at the study, it was 12,000 cars per day or 18,000 cars per day even. So that's a busy street, busy intersection. There is constantly going to be noise coming down that intersection, as well as a 24-hour gas station right across the street from our proposed facility. So there are constantly people coming off the highway, going into the gas station. It will never stop. Of course, it will be lighter flow overnight, and we can prove that too for our facility. Going on our experience, we only see 3% overnight. So, it's important to stress that our noise is not going 24/7. Or even at 100% capacity, the vacuums are not always going, the dryer's not always going. So just remember that our noise is not constant. You're probably going to have more noise coming from the street because you have more cars on the street than you have more dryers at our facility. So you're going to have a car going, if you have 12,000 cars, that's a quick 65 decibels for every single car that goes by. Whereas we only have maybe 100 dries a day. So that's only 100 65s a day. So the streets themselves will make more noise than our proposed facility. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I appreciate that. I think that's all I have for right now. The rest of my questions have to do with the site plan. So I appreciate it.
Thanks, Christina. Commissioner Gwark.
This is Commissioner Gwark. I was not here last meeting, but I did read through the minutes, and I did get a lot of the answers to this this SPU 643 during the new presentation about noise levels and traffic issues. But I have a notepad here with a bunch of questions for the site plan, so I'll hold everything until then, I believe. So that's it for me now.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Commissioner Wolowski. Steve. I can't see if he's talking or not. Rob, is he on mute?
Sorry, I didn't unmute.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so my business is located in Berlin and happens to be right next to a car wash. So when the vacuums are going, what you're saying is a conversation is at one level and the vacuum's only slightly higher than that. I would probably strongly disagree with that. However, I'm not saying that your numbers are wrong. I'm just saying that compared to a conversation, a vacuum for a car wash is going to be higher and longer in duration. And taking that comparison with the duration of the noise, a car goes by and it's gone, where a vacuum is going to run for what, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, depending on the amount of money you put into it. I'm not sure that that's an equal comparison, but with it being, over a period of time, I understand what you're saying. I just do have a little bit of concerns about the vacuum noise. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Sev or David or Colin or anyone else want to respond to that from the applicant?
Yeah, we'll respond. So a couple of things, regarding our vacuums. I can speak upon our vacuums and the numbers that I see on the decibels. I cannot speak for any other car wash because I don't know what kind of motors they're using, and
Yeah, that's fair. I understand that.
I don't know what kind of housing they have for those vacuums. So we seek out quiet motors. So I can tell you that my readings are accurate on our vacuums. Now, as far as the average vacuum, it's going for 2 minutes, 3 minutes maybe. Now, it's not going 24/7, and that one car that goes by, instead of thinking about that one car that goes by, let's think about a flow of traffic going by, because that's more accurate. Meriden Ave, Meriden Waterbury Turnpike, it's not just one car every 2 to 3 minutes. It's a consistent flow of traffic all day long. So that 65 isn't just coming up every 1 to 2 minutes. It's a 65 all day long, right? So our vacuums are not all day long. It's when someone wants to use them. So they're coming every 5-10 minutes. We'll say you get a vacuum for a minute or two. Whereas on the street itself, it's a consistent flow of traffic. So that's how I would compare it. The traffic flow is much busier than our vacuum usage. Thank you.
Thanks, Colin. Steve, anything else?
Yeah, I mean, maybe Commissioner Volpe spoke to this. So, I mean, I'm not a noise expert by any stretch, but so you're taking the traffic, the vacuum, the intersection, the property across the street, the gas station, you're taking all these different noise levels, and are we adding them together? It's not a cumulative effect, or does everything just stay at the same level?
No, it's not a cumulative. Noise level do not add to each other.
It's not a cumulative. No,
that was my question.
Okay. You satisfied with that, Steve, or you haven't?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay.
That answered my question.
Okay, you all set?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thanks, Steve. Commissioner Locks.
Commissioner Locks here. I know you went over this the last time, but a lot of the neighbors are concerned with the size of the trucks. Could you go over again so the public will know the size of trucks that will be going into this facility?
Yeah, so mostly we'll see like RVs, we'll see cabs of tractor trailers, never a tractor trailer. I know that that's the biggest concern. We do not see tractor trailers. We just see oversized vehicles, someone trailering a motor or a motorboat that they want to wash, or a trailer that they want to wash, something that is 14-foot clearance that they can't wash in their yard. But campers of that nature, never a tractor trailer. I want to be clear on that. If we had a tractor trailer, they would drop their trailer at home and just bring their cab in to wash at our facility. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. I just want to make sure the public knows that 18-wheelers aren't going to be coming through this area to make it more dangerous.
No,
so that's my point.
I understand, and that's we could put up signage to specify that no 18-wheelers, no tractor trailers will be allowed in the oversized vehicle bay. That's not a problem at all. We can specify that so that there's no confusion.
I think that would be wise. But other than that, I saw your facility in Meriden, was very impressed. I did not think the vacuum volume was high at all. So, and it was very clean and very tidy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. Commissioner Coles.
Good evening. So I just two things I want to touch on. I want to pick up on something that Commissioner Walowski had brought up about the cumulative noise. You guys sure about that? Because if three people are talking in a room at the same time, it does get louder and more volume is, I don't know if it's per se decibel levels go higher, but there's certainly more material there to carry across the line. I don't know if you can even comment on that, or if I'm just kind of spitballing on just that particular conversation. I'll leave it to you guys if you have something.
Yeah, I'll respond. Thank you. I am not a sound expert, but I was surprised myself because I tested more than one vacuum at once and I tested more than one dryer at once. And surprising even to me, the decibel range was the same. Now, maybe it's because they're the same sound waves traveling, so it's the same decibel range. I understand if one person is talking and more people are talking, maybe if they had the same vocal cords, the sound wave wouldn't change. I honestly don't know, but I thought the same, that it would change with more dryers or more vacuums, but surprising even to me, it did not make a difference whether I had one vacuum going, two or three. The sound waves traveled the same.
Great. And then my other question is on the equipment itself that you're using. You said that you had run those tests at the existing facility. I just want to know, are you planning on using the same equipment at this building that you do at the other building? And you mentioned that the size of the drive-into bays, the auto wash bays, we'll say, are a little bit bigger. But it's seen typical construction from site to site. So I guess my question is, and I think you see where I'm going with this, is are the readings that you had in Meriden consistent with what the readings that you'll propose to see in Sullyton?
Yes, sir. We will be using the same equipment, the same dryers, the same vacuums. Everything will be consistent with what we already operate. The reason that we're extending the bays is because we will be adding one piece of equipment, but it does not make any noise. It's to scrub your wheels on the way in, so it does not make any kind of decibel range. No sound waves will travel from it.
Good. I think that those are and again, I appreciate you guys bringing in this extra, these extra sound readings. We had kind of asked for that last week, and I do appreciate you making that effort to provide us that data. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Commissioner Salka?
Yes, Commissioner Salka. I made 3 visits out there to the Meriden facility. And again, I was concerned about the noise. I parked my car on the side of the building, on the right side of the building, where I guess you can go around the building. I walked around it. I did it on 2 weekdays and a Saturday about 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. The traffic volume wasn't what I expected. It wasn't as much as I expected. The noise volume was not as loud as I thought it was going to be. I met with 2 attendants that were there on that Saturday. They showed me around a little bit. I actually went to the facility to the south of your facility, stood in their driveway. So I was probably 80 to 100 feet away, and there was almost no sound coming from what I could hear. The doors were shut, but I didn't hear the kind of sound that I thought I would. There were, I think, the maximum were 6 cars in line on Saturday at the automatic one, which is the one on the right when you drive in. And I guess they take about 5 minutes per car. And so I watched probably 6 or 7 cars go through. And then I went to the vacuum area, which is to the south side of the building. And 8 cars came out of the building and not one of them used the vacuums. So I think if you take a high percentage, you're not gonna see 100% using those standalone vacuums. So I think that'll cut down on the noise as well. But again, it was a very impressive operation. The one concern I have, and I'm not sure it's a site plan issue, but with the number of cars that were in line, I think I said maximum of 6 on one side. None of them shut their cars off, and they all sat there outside that building for probably 5 minutes times 6, so probably 20 minutes or more. And I guess that's one concern I have. You mentioned at the last meeting that you would have signs that you're not supposed to run your vehicle for more than 3 minutes from a pollution standpoint. but I didn't see that being enforced. So that's probably the only concern that I had when I visited the site. So that's it, Mr. Chairman. The rest of my questions are site plan issues, and I'll wait till that time. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Just so we can get this on the record, Mr. Q, Kermit, just a quick question for Kermit, if I can. Kermit, are you a licensed professional engineer? Are you licensed by the state of Connecticut as a professional engineer? And your traffic study is sealed with your approval as meeting the requirements that are stipulated for traffic engineering studies by the state of Connecticut and the professional engineering organizations?
That is correct. The cover is sealed.
Okay. So what I'm getting at is that your information is something that is very, for lack of a better term, but very analytical in terms of the way that you go about things. You don't come to conclusions based on anything other than what the statistics and the facts bring you to. Is that accurate?
Well, I think two components. One is the quantitative, level of service and estimated trips and so forth, and then the second part is just sort of a professional judgment you cannot quantify based on my over 20 years of experience.
Okay. And is it fair to say that your findings indicate that the impact on local traffic would be minimal as a result of this, if this were developed at that location?
I agree. This is a busy intersection, but the way, if you look at the level of service analysis, is traffic does move through the intersection quickly. You do have queues, 6, 7 vehicles, even on Meriden Road, but they get processed every cycle. So they dissipate quickly. Do have a situation, maybe the exit driveway on Meriden is blocked, for 20, 30 seconds. But when the green light shows, those queues dissipate quickly. So I don't see that an issue as far as access to the site. Thank you.
Okay. And specifically, there's one section of our special permit, section 8 of our regulations, which talk about adequate streets for use. And would you say that with this development that there would be adequate width, grade, alignment, and visibility for capacity that would be generated by this development?
That is correct. I agree with that statement.
Okay. Okay. I have some site plan things. That's probably like everybody else, but I'm not going to go into that. Let's unless there's anything else that Sav or any other member of the applicant's team want to add, I'll open it up to members of the public. Sav, anything else? I can't hear him, so he's either muted or.
Mr. Chair, it's Commissioner Coles.
Go.
Can I just ask the applicant to speak to Commissioner Salka's comment about the idling in the queue?
Sure, by all means. No, we did state that we have no problem putting up the signage that specifies you're only allowed to run for X amount of minutes. There is, I don't remember the detail of the regulation, but I believe it's under or above 20 or 30 degrees that you're required to shut it off. Cold weather, you are allowed a little longer, but we will certainly post that regulation to clarify.
Okay. Caleb, you all set?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so let's open it up to members of the public. When we start, as we always do, we'll start with anyone who'd like to testify in favor of this application. Please state your name and your address for the record. And you probably have to unmute yourself, correct, Rob?
Yeah, I have two call-ins, I believe. I've requested an unmute to one of them. The other one's already unmuted.
Okay. Again, this is for anyone who'd like to testify in favor of the application.
Again, anybody who I'm requesting unmute to, you might hear a tone in your phone that says *6 to unmute yourself. You just have to do that.
Can we drop the share screen piece, Rob, for a second?
Yeah, it's up to Seb. I gotta.
Seb, can you drop that for a second,
Yeah,
please?
Norm, could you do that, please?
That way I
Thank you.
can see if somebody's trying to talk. And
Yeah.
okay, so one final time we'll ask if there's any members of the public who'd like to talk in favor of this application. I don't see or hear any. Let's move on to anyone who'd like to speak in opposition to this application. Again, please indicate your name and your address for the record, and be sure to unmute yourself. Any member of the public who'd like to speak in opposition to this application? So I see your lips moving, but I can't hear you.
Okay, I think I unmuted. I don't know how to work this thing.
Yeah, you got it now. Go ahead. Again, your name and your address, please.
Doris Philippian, 1644 Manhattan, property next door, that it borders on two sides, the commercial property.
Go ahead, Doris.
If there's other people that want to speak, you know, give their opinions. I gave mine first last week, so I would give them their opportunity.
Well, Doris, you have the floor right now, so you said what
Okay,
you're going to say.
all right, great. Okay, great. Well, good evening. First of all, I need to state my objections again to the car wash, but I would respectfully ask that, as this is a business meeting, I would like assurance that there won't be any character attacks as I experienced at the last meeting by a particular individual.
Doris, I generally don't allow for people to attack anyone personally, so.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then I'll continue. So as I already submitted two very detailed documents, including supportive Connecticut case law precedent rulings, what I'd like to do is just take a few minutes to summarize my reasons why I believe the proposed car wash is unnecessary, unreasonable, and unsuitable for the proposed location. So regarding unnecessary, this operation would be of no benefit to the people in this neighborhood, most of whom, and somebody did mention if they didn't want to wash their cars in their own driveway, because most of the people in this neighborhood, they wash their cars, they vacuum their vehicles in their own driveways. And those who choose to use a car wash drive 3 miles to eWash America. And no one needs to wash or vacuum their vehicle in the middle of the night. Being unnecessary, I think, is verified, as I believe no one has expressed being in favor of this car wash. Neighbors that I've actually talked to previously over the years, they've expressed their choices for businesses that they would like. And I did itemize those businesses in the documents that I submitted. I did forget to state the most important one that a lot of people suggested, which would be a drugstore. They'd love to have a drugstore on that corner. And then several reasons for the proposed car wash being unreasonable and unsuitable. First, it's an absolute fact that would generate continuous traffic flow on Meriden-Waterbury Turnpike and Meriden Avenue, which would definitely escalate the traffic and travel problems we already have at this intersection. Traffic does not move quickly along. Mr. Tangway had expressed that sometimes traffic is backed up to his house, which is way beyond mine. And it's generally always backed up to my property at 1644. Also, having a double lane exit onto Meriden Avenue would be extremely difficult and dangerous, creating additional traffic and congestion problems for the neighborhood. And I would request that the commission, the town, please do its own traffic study, which I believe would verify the information that I provided. The next reason, the operation, site plan, and buildings do not conform and are actually in direct opposition to the character and harmony of our present businesses and residences. Another major factor, which I know they're trying to play it down, but noise is cumulative. Yes, we have noise already on the roads, and we're going to put additional noise. And I'd like to comment, somebody said something about a vacuum. Your vacuum cleaner makes more noise. But we don't vacuum our car 100 times. I mean, we don't vacuum our house 100 times a day. So the noise generated from the car wash machines, the vacuums, and from uncontrollable noise from engines and defective mufflers of all kinds of vehicles, which would be particularly disturbing to adjacent residences, especially mine, because I want the commission members to understand that my property borders completely two sides of the commercial property. Another serious problem is the, again, uncontrollable, noxious exhaust emissions from all kinds of vehicles, creating a serious health hazard to the area. There is the possibility of well water contamination, which presents another toxic health hazard to the neighborhood. And definitely all nearby residential properties would be devalued by such an intrusive, noisy health hazard operation. There just is no value to this in the neighborhood. It definitely would devalue just the buildings and the structure. And as far as unsuitable, I would like to state that I also researched the Class Act auto wash in Meriden. I have to say this operation is in the correct location. It's on the corner of Research Parkway. There are no adjacent residential properties. The site plan is appropriate. It's on a rectangular piece of land. The entrance and the exit, they're properly at the same location. The Meriden location is a magnificent, perfect site for their 24-hour car wash. It is. But it's totally unreasonable and unsuitable for the applicants to attempt to maneuver and manipulate their idea for this intrusive car wash into this L-shaped piece of property in Southington. It's completely ignoring the needs and welfare of the neighborhood. And one of the, I think it was one of the Carabettas who just said that we're working with the piece of property we have. Well, it seems that they really would be best suggested to get themselves another rectangular piece of property that's not in the middle of a residential neighborhood. But the other thing too, I have one more thing that I think is very important. If this 24 operation were allowed, it would definitely bring and promote crime in our neighborhood. It would be providing a nighttime parking area for vandalism, car break-ins, burglary, and of course my property would be their first target. So in conclusion, I have supported all of my objections with Connecticut case law precedent rulings, and I am respectfully requesting for all the commission members to please carefully read and study the two sets of detailed documents that I submitted in objection. And I'm asking that you please deny this noisy, intrusive, traffic escalating proposal. Instead, please approve businesses suited and desirable to the neighborhood, which are appropriate and in the best interests and welfare of our neighborhood. And I thank you for my time.
Thanks, Doris. Open it up to commission members. Is there any questions for Ms. Fillon? let me take a shot at some of the things that you said, Doris, and the applicant will have the opportunity to respond later on. But you mentioned that right now there's continuous traffic flow, and that in your mind this business would escalate that traffic significantly. Is that an accurate representation of what you said?
Absolutely.
Okay. What
Absolutely,
evidence
and
do
I
you?
understand. I just want to respond a little bit more. I do understand that you have heard from some other individuals. There's even a lady on Pratt Street that's very upset. And I said, Mr. Tangway, Mr. and Mrs. Tangway, they live several houses down from me. And I believe they sent you a written statement also that they're very concerned because
Yep.
it's difficult for them to get out of their own driveways. So
Okay.
absolutely, this would be accumulation of traffic.
But Doris, I'm asking you the question. You just said it. I'm asking you, what evidence do you have that this is going to impede the flow of traffic beyond where it is right now?
Well, it's really bad right now, as I explained at the last meeting. When I come out of that driveway, and when I tell other people to come out of the driveway, you have to be so careful because traffic is, first of all, it's probably backed up to the light on Meriden Avenue. But the main problem is the traffic just flies around that corner from Meriden Waterbury Road around the gas station. And you can be pulling out of my driveway to take a left down Meriden Avenue. You think it's all clear. And by the time you get across your first lane of traffic and you think you're going to be in the travel lane, there's cars flying by. And
Yep.
allowing an exit, a double exit from a business that's constant moving vehicles, it's got to be the most dangerous thing. I know Miss Carr, she said that it's the worst possible business she could think of, and I have to agree. There are
And
businesses that would be beneficial.
I like you are very familiar with that intersection. As I've said last time, I traveled at least twice a day to and from work, 5 days a week at least. But you acknowledge that there's exits and entrances at the other two businesses, both at the gas station and at the plaza that houses the Dunkin' Donuts and the Sassy Liquors and the Hubbard Park Pizza restaurant. Those have those entrances and exits as well. You acknowledge that, correct?
Oh, absolutely, but they're not trying to double lane out of Meriden Avenue. You could go either way from the gas station.
Yeah.
And some people
So it is a
actually,
double lane because when I come up on Meriden Avenue, as I'm turning left on the Meriden Waterbury Turnpike on my way to 691, there are people who are taking a left out of there on the Meriden Avenue to go the same way that I'm going. And
oh,
I
certainly at the
think that
traffic light. Yes,
yeah, at the
no,
track, right.
I'm saying
No,
their exit. Go
yeah,
ahead. I'm sorry.
they are exiting there because they stopped to fill their gas up, and they're exiting
Right.
there. And because we live in such a great community, people are kind enough to let people come into the traffic to keep things moving. And I'm just trying to figure out, when you make a statement that says that this is going to cause a bigger problem, how is it going to cause a bigger problem in your mind? I don't understand it. And let me just expand upon that if I can, because you mentioned that this isn't the right business for that location. And you mentioned that you would think something like a drugstore would be more suitable for that location. Do you suggest that a drugstore would have more or less traffic than what this business would generate?
Actually, like, I'm not trying to take this upon myself, but over the years, those two properties have been vacant for a long time. So different residents, local neighborhood people, we've talked about it. And I listed in my thing that people suggested a lot of things. Nobody said car wash, like bank, card shop, restaurant, hair salon, barber shop, small hardware store. People are more inclined. They want like little businesses that they could just go to from their homes. They're already washing their own cars. I mean, it
Well,
appears that the main business that these people are expecting to get probably is off of 691.
Too, there are drugstores in town, there are hair salons, there are
Right.
small restaurants in town.
But
Um,
they're a ways
you know,
away.
but we don't have, as a commission, we don't have the ability to say what type of business should go in a certain location. That actually would be a violation of the property owner's rights. And as you may know, Doris, probably about 2 months ago, if my timing is correct, we did change the zone on this piece of property to a business zone because part of it was zoned as a residential. You're familiar with that.
Right, the rear property for mine
Right.
was residential. The two properties next to me, even where the Pernals lived, that property was always commercial and they never quite understood why. But no, we were talking specifically about the two pieces of property, 1656 and the old Ace Appliance on the corner. But I'm sure, I mean, if you were to take a poll, I mean, there's nobody in favor of this. Nobody's saying, yeah, great, let's put a car wash. We wash our cars and vacuum our vehicles in our driveway. But it
Well,
would be nice to have things. I just want to finish. You mentioned different businesses, but we have to go all the way down Meriden Avenue to go to those places, or all the way down Meriden Waterbury Road. We would love to see, and I'm not saying that, you know, that you can ask for those, but it would just seem logical to deny this. I mean, they admitted that they're using a piece of property. They're trying to maneuver a piece of property for what they want to put in, which it's just not sensible. It would be nice to put in businesses that the neighborhood would appreciate. Even one of all of those, a plaza with all those things. We would
well,
love
Doris,
that.
I'm just trying to understand. I'm just trying to understand. I mean, this is the second time that you came before us on this application. I'm just trying to understand what your objections are and what they mean. But when you say that you would be in favor of a drugstore in that location, I have a hard time understanding how you'd be in favor of a drugstore, which in my mind would actually generate more traffic than a car wash, unless this is the busiest car wash ever in America, which I can't imagine it's going to be, with all due respect to the applicant. But I'm trying to understand in my mind how you can be in favor of a drugstore or a small restaurant and not be in favor of this. And you brought up several things. You talked about this promoting crime and that it provides, I think your words were, it would provide a parking area. Well, doesn't the gas station or the plaza that has the Dunkin' Donuts in it also provide a parking area for any crime that's going to occur?
Well,
Absent there's
not
even being there.
okay, but look at the facts. In order to put this in, they have to put their landscaping and maybe their fencing, which gives them cars a nice place to park and hide and walk off to whatever they want to do in the neighborhood. But let me just answer your first question.
Yep.
Is you're talking about a huge one business in three businesses. I mean, there's three business properties there. You could actually have a nice plaza in the rear property, the 307, 309. And you could have a couple small businesses in 1656 in the old Ace Appliance. If you were to talk to folks in the neighborhood, they would prefer some small businesses. We're not talking about the traffic coming and going. Obviously, there's going to be businesses. It's zoned for business. So being good residents, we're trying to accept what would be nice. But this huge thing taken up by this huge car wash that they claim isn't going to make noise. Of course it's going to make noise. I use my backyard a lot. The people that my family use the backyard a lot. One of my relatives that I had there had a wedding in the backyard. They held their reception there. It's just not the same. The buildings, they don't conform to the character of the neighborhood. Like I say, their Meriden location, I think they did a great job. They had a rectangle, they put it away from residences, and the fella admitted that they're using the property that they have available. I just think the town should please not let that particular business go in. Instead, put out some signs, available or whatever. Maybe people don't even know. I mean, I know the other property just became commercial, as you said, maybe 2 months ago. But, the neighbors, and if you did a poll, they certainly would ask you to get businesses that are desirable. If this was desirable, there'd be somebody saying, yeah, we'd love a car wash. There's one 3 miles down the road. The other car wash is closer than the restaurants and the hair salons that we'd have to go to.
Okay.
And the drugstore. Everything is further away than the E-Wash America car wash. If that answered your question.
Okay.
There's just so many reasons why this is a bad. I know you'd like to get, the business into the town, but there are things, a lot of these people have been residences for many, many years, as I've owned the property for 85 years. And we'd appreciate our enjoyment of our property, our grandfathered right to be honored, please.
Yeah, well, okay, okay. Thank you, Doris, for your input. And I truly do appreciate you coming out and letting us know what your thoughts are. So I hope that you understand that as well.
I
So,
do, and I
okay,
appreciate the time. Thank you.
okay.
You're very kind. You're all very kind.
Thank you. Speaking for myself, I'm sure everybody else appreciates that as well. But let's open it up to any other members of the public who'd like to speak in opposition to this application. Again, if you could just make sure you unmute yourself, identify yourself and your address so we get that on the record, please. Do we have anybody else? I don't see or hear anybody. Sev and your team there, I'll give you the opportunity to respond to the comments that were made. Sev, you got to unmute yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
I want to respond to some of the comments that the previous speaker has made. One is the fact that it's not needed. The proposed use is not needed. The need of a commercial use is based on the demand in the marketplace. So we have a company, reputable company, that's willing to move to the site, and we feel that's suitable for the site. And she stated that would prefer other type of uses, including a drugstore. A drugstore would generate more traffic and most likely would have the same curb cuts that we are proposing with more traffic generation. The noise level is not cumulative. I researched this. It's not cumulative in the sense that if you have two sources at 50 decibel, that they amount to 100 decibel. The two sources possibly would increase the decibel levels to 51. We're talking about sound waves. The noise level increases in a room because people are speaking in a room. More people generate more of the sound bounces off the walls, so to speak, and the noise is contained within an enclosure. But when you're outside and you have two sources, the noise level do not become cumulative. In regard to the well water contamination, our facility is designed with the latest techniques in terms of controlling pollution and the ability to remove pollutants from the site. And our drainage system does not drain towards her property, it drains away from her property. The suggestion that people are washing their cars in a driveway, it really is not a good environmental choice for people to do that, because it's just not, the pollutants will go in the ground, absorb in the ground, and go into the groundwater. So a car wash is the best solution for washing the cars if you can afford it. Insofar as that this is a huge business, it's not. We are proposing, in terms of density, we're proposing 50% less dense building in terms of square footage that could go on this property. And the property is zone business, and so is the property across the street on the east side and the south side. And the for sale sign has been on the site for many years, and has not been any interest for other uses. Otherwise, we would have entertained that. The applicant would have entertained it. Those are my comments to the
Okay.
questions.
Thanks, Ev. Is there anyone else from the team? David, I see your hand up.
David,
Again, if you could just
yeah.
identify yourself, please.
Yes, David Carabetta, 601 Winding Ridge, Southington, Connecticut. I can certainly respect Doris's concerns. Our car wash in Meriden just as we propose our car wash in Southington. We're a family operation, and we believe in our community. And the last thing we will do is downgrade the area. Now, I understand your concerns regarding someone that doesn't have a muffler. Someone may not have a muffler on if they're coming down the street or in the gas station or in Dunkin' Donuts. It's clearly not my responsibility to govern the noise coming out of a person's vehicle. So that's something that I really can't do anything about. In terms of pollution, I took offense that you feel that we are going to be polluting or downgrading the area because of our services. You have to understand where car washes came from. And as Sev had pointed out earlier, washing your car is not necessarily something that's good for the environment when you do it in your backyard. It's the same as, we're all adults here. We can go back a number of years where we all had septic systems. And as the towns added on to their sewage plants, it's a better environmental safety to have a sewage treatment plant. So these things have changed over the past 80 years, and they will continue to change to the better. From a pollution standpoint, controlling all the wash water from washing vehicles in one location is far more secure than a residential house. And the point is, you need to give people a place to provide this service. We need to have a place to do it so that we do control our own backyard and our own property. Pollution is something we take very seriously. All of the soaps and detergents we use are approved. Everything we do is under state permit. We go above and beyond in terms of maintenance intervals so we continue to protect our environment. Now, I guess you could go back and put a gas station there, which is what was there a number of years ago, but, people have leaks at gas stations. The one across the street had a leak, and they did the right thing, and they took care of it right away with no damage to the environment because they're a responsible company. And we're responsible too. We are not handling gasoline. We're handling soaps and detergents, but we have the same responsibility to our community and to the environment as everyone else has. Actually, we have that much more responsibility than the average homeowner because everything we do under permit. Tremendous scrutiny. And in terms of the comment of manipulating, I can assure everyone on the board and everyone that is there this evening, we have done nothing to manipulate any of the data we submitted to all of the board, to the town. Our engineers are stand-up companies, and we just take offense to the term manipulate, because that we don't do. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, David. Before we go any further, I just am remembering that one of the reasons why this was continued was that there were a series of, I think, 33 comments out of the town environmental department. I saw that there was some response that was submitted to that, but I'm going to ask our town engineer, Jim Grappone, to just comment on anything that's outstanding or whether those answers were provided to you, Jim, adequately, and whether you're satisfied with the responses. So I'll give you the floor for as long as you need it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm assuming you're referring to the drainage issues possibly?
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that you brought up, yes.
Okay. I did receive responses to comments on all the engineering comments, and I agree with the responses from the developer's engineer, Mr. Reynolds. There is some drainage concerns, which we spent, Mr. Reynolds and I spent a lot of time on Friday to go over some of the drainage. Just to quickly summarize that, the drainage was designed with 2 outlets. One of the outlets is on the southwesterly corner of the site, and it'll discharge with a connection into the state drainage system. That's going to require an encroachment permit with Connecticut DOT. The second discharge outlet is on the northwest corner of the property. at a man-made depression that's on the site plan. The concern with that is the high water elevation for storms larger than 25-year storm event and overflowing possibly onto the abutting property to the west. So today we worked out, actually on Friday, we threw out the possibility of putting in a dry well and creating a low point in that corner of the property, which the engineer feels the soil type is adequate there for a dry well, just in the event that the underground storage becomes full and then it flows out into this depression area. So from what I could see from the permeability tests and the deep hole tests, the soils, the deep hole tests were in the area of the depression, but not exactly where they're proposing it. So one of my recommendations is that in pursuing the dry well design is, I'll call it a little belt and suspender point of view, is to do a perk test and to determine where the restrictive layer is, similar to septic system design, and the applicant's engineer is agreeable to that.
Okay.
So we have reached some common ground in the with respect to the drainage. As far as the traffic report, I did review it. The recommendations are conservative in my opinion, but I'm not a full-fledged traffic engineer. This is a DOT signalized intersection, so it's going to fall under Connecticut DOT purview. So I'm going to leave it up to them. They're going to look at their traffic design on the traffic signal, and as it was stated in the testimony, they're going to see how quickly the cycle time is going through there for the intended use. So I'm going to rely on the expertise of Connecticut DOT, and unfortunately, they won't review it until action is taken favorably on the application. So I think I've addressed all the issues from the last meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Jim. So I think unless there's anything new to add, I don't know if there's a reason to keep this public hearing open. So I open it up to members of the commission on what. Doris, I see your hand. At some point, you understand we have to move past this, right? So, and you've now provided testimony twice, and so I just am wondering what other piece of testimony do you have that you want to talk to us about? So I'll give you the floor, but if you can just.
I'll make it brief.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
I
Thank you.
first wanted to respond to Mr. Carabetta because at no point I used the word manipulate, but at no point was I saying they manipulated the data. I said manipulated and maneuvered, which I meant they're trying to adjust the beautiful layout that they have in Meriden to adjust to the L-shaped property. I wasn't saying anything that they were doing anything improper or would do anything improper. I just want to clarify that. I want to say one other thing. You were talking about septic, where, after a while they go to the street sewers. I do still have a septic system at my place. I have septic and I have well water, and that's a little bit concerning. And just to respond to another thing that you had said was there might be more traffic coming in and out, but it's not a constant flow through this great big area there would be buildings where people would pull up to the buildings, probably the piece of property on 307, 309, I believe my property would butt up to the back of buildings where people might drive in for the drugstore, the hair salon, whatever. So I just feel, and one other comment I wanted to make, where you mentioned that it's not environmentally safe to wash your cars, and that you want to provide a service. Again, if they want to, they'll go down to the car wash. You can't put that in and then demand that people don't wash their cars in their driveways. So that's basically what I want to say. And I just hope the commission sees this is not a good idea, and I won't interject anymore. I'll concede my time, and I thank you very much for hearing my concerns. Again, I've been 85 years on that property, so I'm probably the one it's most important to. Thank you.
Well, Doris, as I said before, and I maintain that. I mean, we appreciate you coming out and being so informative on this application. So, you know, your points and your statements are not ones that we, speaking for myself, that I dismiss out of hand. I'd like to have a sense of what you're trying to drive at, and that's why I asked the points of clarification that I was asking. So again, we appreciate you coming out, and we appreciate your comments and so on. So, are there any other comments from members of the
Thank you. I
commission?
just
Is there
want
any
to say,
reason
I
from
just
any
want to
member
say,
of the?
could you all please read all the documents that I spent a lot of time? I even
Yep,
researched a lot of case
we
law.
get
So
that in advance, Doris, and I, you know, again, speaking for myself, I know that I take the time to go through it, to think about it, and to consider it as part of my deliberations. And, you know, knowing the members on the commission, I'm sure that they do as well. But again, if there anyone on the commission who has any additional questions or comments, or feels like we need to leave this public hearing open? Okay, I don't see any, so we'll close the public hearing on this and move on to item 7B. Livewell Alliance, Inc., a special permit application for expansion of existing campus to include additional structures for semi-independent living, greenhouse and facility center. The expansion will include renovations to the existing structure, property located at 1261 South Main Street in a B zone, parcel size 6.5 acres, SPU 645. This is a continuation of the public hearing that we had that began at our last meeting on February 2nd. Attorney Mortaccio, I believe that you may have some information that you want to share with us for the record here. So the floor is yours, sir.
Yes, sir. I want to first and foremost thank everyone for their time this evening. I know this meeting is certainly going along and it will probably go much longer. So thank you all for your patience and your time, first and foremost. By way of quick review, as I reiterated in a little more depth 2 weeks ago at our first public hearing, Livewell, through its progression from a previous company, has been our neighbor in existence as a nonprofit in Southington for 1992. It's a national or arguably a worldwide leader in research related to Alzheimer's and dementia-related illnesses, or treatment, I should say. At our last public hearing, one of our budding neighbors expressed some concerns as it relates to the scope of the project and the extent of how, if at all, it would impact their existing business and the surrounding area. I'm happy to report that we, through a series of numerous telephone conversations and conferences and emails and so on and so forth, I believe that all of those issues have been addressed. I submitted this afternoon to the Planning and Zoning Office what I deemed, and perhaps inappropriately or prematurely, a conditions of approval summary that consisted of some of the issues that were addressed from the abutting neighbor, and a resolution to make everybody, including my clients as well as the abutting neighbors, a little more comfortable with how this process and how this is going to proceed. I do believe that Attorney Gomes, which is who I've been my main point of contact, is on this call as well, and certainly I'm sure can chime in with regard to some of the expressed concerns.
Lou, can you do me a favor, just so we get it on the record here? And I know you submitted that information late this afternoon. Could you just sort of give us a 10,000 square or 10,000 foot level overview of what those four, I think there were four items.
There were, yes. Absolutely. The first and perhaps most pressing issue was there is an easement from my client to Mulberry Gardens that was granted back some time ago, which allows egress from their area into ours, and certainly to an extent our client's area, my client's area, into Mulberry for an additional form of egress. One of the primary concerns associated with that was what, if any, use is going to be planned during the projection or projected construction phases and the length of the phases. Through again, in particular, a very productive web meeting with all of the principals and all the parties involved, including engineers, architects, owners, managers, you name it. We were able to address that issue, and that as was the plan all along, that easement will only be used on a very limited basis, and it's identified in the agreement. For example, scheduled deliveries. The most notable concern, though, would be in the event that the property has to be used. And the example that was used during the course of many of our conversations would be, for example, a crane. It's unlikely a crane will even be there, but a crane that perhaps can't make the turn from Route 10 onto Livewell's main campus. We would make arrangements to utilize the Mulberry Livewell easement with a notice provision required therein. In addition to that, although certainly not on the high end of the priorities, Livewell has recently acquired a parcel of property known as 66 Mulberry Road, and one of the concerns from the abutting neighbor was what that was going to be used for. In particular, was it going to be a construction staging area where there are going to be supplies stored there, construction equipment, and so on and so forth. While that was never the intent and still isn't the intent of Livewell, it needed to be flushed out so that everybody could feel comfortable and confident that it wasn't going to have, or it should have, as little impact as possible. So part of what I deemed conditions of approval clearly state that property will not be used as a construction staging area. In addition to that, there were some issues as it relates to dust control and fencing around the area. While they weren't detailed in the plans, as a general rule, we don't include those. It was a legitimate concern that dust and debris surrounding the area from the construction site could certainly adversely impact the operations of the area which Mulberry operates. So we included a provision in there as well that stated that there would be not just erosion control, but a dust control and fencing that would include nylon along the back portion that separates Mulberry Garden from Livewell.
Okay. Okay, is there anyone else from the applicant side who'd like to make a statement at this time, or?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay, so let's open it up to commission members and see any questions that they might have. We'll start with Commissioner Santago.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have any further questions in regards to the project. I just would like to thank both parties who were talking about that we had two parties, because really we only have to really rule on the application in front of us.
Sure.
But that's what we do. But I appreciate the effort of Attorney Martacchio, Attorney Gomes, for sitting in a room and talking things out and coming to an agreement. So good for you guys, and just the applicant. I think we said last time, you do great things over there, and hopefully you'll continue to do that for a long time. So that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thanks.
Well, thank you, Mr. Santiago.
Commissioner Locks.
Commissioner Locks here. I echo Peter's statements. I'm glad they came to some agreements, a list of 4 or 5 items. And as long as I think we follow those, I think both parties will be happy. And I think we could go and look at a very nice facility in the future. Thank you.
Thanks to Commissioner Gwark.
This is Commissioner Gwark. Again, I wasn't at the last meeting, but I did read the minutes, and I understand that there was it was continued so that both parties could come out with some kind of plan and agreement, and it looks like that happened. So I have no questions at this time. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Jeff. Commissioner Volpe.
Commissioner Volpe here. I don't have any questions at this time, but I am glad because I grew up on Mulberry Street. I love this area. I do think that it will add a great, refreshing character over here. So thank you again.
Thank you, Commissioner Volpe.
Thanks, Christina. Commissioner Wolowski.
Yes, like Commissioner Wolowski here, like most of the other commissioners, I'm happy to see the two sides work it out. It's kind of unusual for these times, so I just wish them well.
Thanks, Steve. Commissioner Coles?
Good evening. One quick question: the new building where the congregate housing is going to be, is there going to be a commercial kitchen in there, or is the food and meals going to be prepared on the main campus building? You're muted.
This is Michael Smith from Livewell. Can you hear me?
Thank you. Yep.
So the majority of meal preparation will take place in the main kitchen, which exists in the existing building, and there will be a kitchen within each of the two new homes along the Quinnipiac River, but it will not be for basically starting from fresh and completing all meals on site in the building. So it'll be sort of, there might be some finishing involved with some meals, but the majority of preparations will take place in the main kitchen.
So it's more for essentially residential use.
Correct.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
You all set, Caleb? Okay. Commissioner Salka?
Yes, I'd like to just echo what the other commissioner said about the compromises, if you will, that both parties put together this document. I was impressive of coming together, and I was really pleased to see that. Other than that, I have no questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Solka.
So before we open it up to members of the public, I see Attorney Gomes here, and I think we'll just give her the floor for a minute or so and just let her comment on the discussions that occurred over the last couple of weeks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Andre Gomes, I'm an attorney at Shipman and Goodwin in Hartford, and I am, as the commission knows, here on behalf of Mulberry Gardens, which is a Hartford Healthcare affiliate and located directly to the east of the Livewell site.
If I could just, excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm only interrupting because Attorney Martaccio, for some reason, your feed produces feedback. So I keep putting you on mute. If you could just stay muted, it's otherwise we're getting a lot of in the audio recording. For some reason, the same thing happens with Commissioner Santiago's feed all the time. So again, I apologize to him as well too, but go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
I'm just happy it wasn't me because it usually is. So for the record, again, Andre Gomes, attorney for Mulberry Gardens. Thank you. As the commission knows, and I have to put my lawyer hat on here for a second and just go through the timeline, because I really think that this was an excellent example, as the commission said last time, of neighbors coming together and working with neighbors. And we're really proud of that. I can't speak for Livewell, but I know that Mulberry Gardens is certainly proud of that. We appeared at the commission's February 2nd meeting requesting some additional time simply to review the materials. And after that meeting, the commission obviously granted us that time. Thank you very much for that. After that meeting, we truly hit the ground running. We hired a professional engineer licensed in the state of Connecticut, Chris Zibideo of Close Jensen and Miller in Weathersfield, to take a finer, a more detailed look at especially the engineering side of Livewell's plans. I too looked at the plans, and as Attorney Martaccio said, he and I engaged in a lot of back and forth and preliminary email and a lot of phone calls, which really culminated, I think, in an all-hands virtual conference, if you will, last week, where the parties were able to come together and discuss Mulberry Gardens' primary concerns, which, as I mentioned at the last meeting, really focused on concerns with impacts on the easement, drainage impacts, and then just long-term impacts. And this is all both during construction and post-development. And all of that work on both sides really culminated in the proposed conditions of approval document that the commission has before it tonight. And Attorney Martaccio really summarized that well, and I obviously won't need to read it into the record, but really the big thing was ensuring that the Mulberry Gardens access drive was not overburdened or did not, the access of construction vehicles back and forth, or, these horror stories that we were a little bit worried about. And really the language that's been proposed regarding the easement, that the The existing scope will be maintained. The advance notice between Livewell and Mulberry Gardens, just the open line of communication. And Livewell graciously even offered to do both a pre and post condition survey of the easement area, which was very much appreciated. In addition to that, Mulberry Gardens concerns with the use of 66 Mulberry Street, the parcel that's actually directly to the east of the Mulberry Gardens access drive, have been addressed both by Attorney Martaccio's statements on the record at this meeting and last meeting, and also the condition of approval. And finally, just the language regarding the dust control on the plans and the construction fencing. So all of that came together really well. We are very appreciative of Livewell's willingness to communicate, be open with us, and have just a frank discussion. And subject to the Commission's acceptance of those proposed conditions of approval, Mulberry Gardens is very happy to speak in favor of Livewell's pending zoning applications.
Okay. Thanks, Attorney Gomes. And you know, I'm not gonna say it. Look, I appreciate the fact that you all got together and talked, and this worked exactly the way that we like to see it work, where two neighbors can get together. And let this be proof positive that if we can get two attorneys to get together and come to an agreement in 10 days, virtually anybody can do that. So, you know, with all due respect to the attorneys in the room, by the way, but let's open it up to members of the public, other members of the public who'd like to testify in favor of this application. So we'll ask those folks to, again, unmute yourself, state your name and your address for the record, and just share your thoughts with us. Anyone in favor of this application? Seeing none, is there anyone who's like to testify in opposition to this application? Again, unmute yourself, state your name and your address for the record. Seeing none, Attorney Martaccio, is there any reason that in your mind to keep this public hearing open at this time? Can't hear you.
Sorry about that. I keep unmuting myself. No, I respectfully request that it be closed.
Okay, any member from the commission have objection to closing the public hearing on this matter at this time? No, Rob, you good?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing on this and move on to item 7. Michael Browning, special permit application for a parent-grandparent apartment, property located at 157 Whistling Straits Drive in an R40 zone, SB 644. Is Mr. Browning with us?
Yes, I'm
See
present.
him. Okay, Michael, could you just state your name and your address for the record, and then let us know what you plan on doing there?
Yes, my name is Michael Browning at 157 Whistling Straits. I am planning to have my basement finished for a parent apartment.
Okay, pretty succinct. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Do you have any renderings or any drawings that you've submitted?
Yes, I believe they are on the Slivington Planning and Zoning Department webpage for this date.
Right, we have those.
Yeah, I'm pulling them up right now. It's going to take me a second. I think all we have is the radius map.
Yeah. So Michael, let me just make sure that I understand. You mentioned that you're finishing a basement for a parent-grandparent apartment.
Correct.
Is there any addition to your current residence, or is it just going to happen?
It is only within the existing space.
Okay. Okay. All right. That helps clarify things. Let's open it up to members of the commission. Let's start with Commissioner Volpe.
Commissioner Volpe here. You are a wild card tonight, Mr. But my only question would be, and I'm sure my fellow commissioners are considering it as well, you don't have any intention of ever renting this space out or putting it on Airbnb, strange or extravagant parties in this basement. It is intended for the purpose that you have indicated on your application. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, cool. Just gotta make sure. No further questions. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good question.
And I did sign the affidavit that is attached that states that as well.
Yep. Okay. You all set, Christina? You good? Okay.
Yes.
Commissioner Wolowski? Rob, if you could drop that share screen here.
Sure.
Please.
Commissioner Wolowski here. Yes, I've looked over the application and everything seems pretty straightforward.
Okay. Commissioner Gork?
This is Commissioner Gork. If you did want to pull up plans, it looks like they're on the health approval PDF in that list as I'm looking at it now. I don't know if anybody's interested, but there are some plans in there if anybody wants to see them. But no, I have no questions at this time because I saw the fire department and the health department approval, so we should be all set. Thanks.
Thanks, Jeff. Commissioner Locks?
No, I don't have any questions at this time. Self-explanatory.
Yep. Commissioner Coles?
No questions. Thank you. Good luck.
Okay. Commissioner Santago?
Thank you. No questions for the applicant, but I guess I have a question for Rob. So Rob, he's not adding to his house. He's finishing his basement. Here's a stupid question. Did he even have to tell anybody?
I was wondering the same thing.
Yeah, yes, because finishing your basement does require building permit, and when you're seeking to take out and obtain building permit approvals, we talk, manage the building department, and we all as departments talk and make sure that all the departments don't have any issues with anything, and so therefore it would come up no matter what. And since it's finished for a space that's going to basically in effect be a separate living unit within the principal building, it would raise red flags.
Okay. It was more procedural. I have a problem with the applicant, just procedurally why this would come before us versus the building department. But okay,
yeah,
I get it.
I mean, let's just say, for instance, they were just finishing their basement period into just some usable space.
Yeah.
Without permits, that happens quite often, and well, not quite often, but it happens. And unfortunately, what happens is when they go to sell their home, those things come up at the last minute, and they cause big problems for the transfer of the property.
Gotcha. Okay, that's a good explanation. I get that part of it. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Peter. Commissioner Solka?
I have no further questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thanks. Michael, could I just ask, is there a separate entrance into the basement on your property proposed here?
There is currently a door in the basement as well as 2 windows. And there will be a window that's located in the bedroom for the basement as well.
When you say a door, are you talking about a hatchway, or are you talking about an actual door like you would find at the front of your house?
Correct, an actual door that you can walk out of.
Okay. All right, well, we'll open up to members of the public. If there's anyone who'd like to testify in favor of this application, again, please unmute yourself and state your name and your address for the record, please. Seeing none, anyone who'd like to testify in opposition to this application? Seeing none, is there any reason to keep this application open for a public hearing, this public hearing open? I don't think there's any. Could I just beg the commission before I close it, but can I just beg the commission's consideration of when we get into the business meeting of moving this one up to the top so that Michael doesn't have to sit around and listen to the other ones, some of which might be a more lengthy discussion. If everyone's okay with that, if we could just do that. Is anyone have a problem with that? No? Okay. Okay. So we'll close the public hearing on this. We'll move into the business meeting. I'm going to look for a motion to prioritize taking up item 8E, Michael Browning. We get a motion for that?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve SPU 644.
We have a motion from Commissioner Salka. A second.
Second.
Commissioner Woloski is a second. Is there any discussion? Rob,
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner Gwarek. Do we need to add a stipulation? I know he signed the affidavit not for rental, but I didn't know if we had to add that as a stipulation.
So Rob Phillips, I can respond to that. There are about 4 standard stipulations that, and there's a stipulation to in the regulations to place those 4 on the approved plans, and we do as a matter of as practice in this planning department. So when the applicants get their approvals, they're aware of those stipulations.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Comments? Rob, you got to call the roll on this, or?
Yeah, please.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, Gwarek?
Commissioner Gwarek, yes.
Locks?
Commissioner Locks, yes.
Wolowski?
Commissioner Wolowski, yes.
Volpe?
Commissioner Volpe, yes.
Salka?
Commissioner Salka, yes.
Got one out of order here. Santiago?
Santiago, yes.
Chairman Hammersley?
Members of the yes, motion passes 7-0. Congratulations, Michael. Have a great night.
Thank you very much. You too.
Stick around if you like. I mean, you can stay.
I learned a lot about car washes.
Well, now we're going to move into the meat of the car wash. So item 8A, Classic Act Auto Wash, special permit application for proposed car wash, property located at 1656 Meriden Avenue, 291, 307 to 309 Meriden Waterbury Road in a B zone. This is SPU 643. What's our pleasure, folks?
Just a clarification, 648, SPU 648.
The agenda is incorrect then.
Oh, okay. I'll make note of that. In fact, it is 643. My sheet's wrong. It's 648.
Okay.
Or it's supposed to be
Now that
648.
we got that settled. That might be the easiest thing that we have to settle tonight, but okay, we'll open the floor up to commission members. Caleb, as an alternate, this is your opportunity to speak on this application before we get a motion. So if you have anything, fire away.
Sure. This is the site plan piece. So I'm
This is not the site plan. No, this is the actual application.
okay.
This is the
No,
special
I will definitely not extend the conversation, which says I think and tweeze out pretty thoroughly. Good luck to the voting members of the commission.
Okay. Well, in that case, we need a motion of some sort.
Mr. Chairman, it's Peter Santiago. So I don't have any problem with this business being there. It's zone business. We extended the business zone. We do not, within our purview, can tell an applicant what business can go where. In fact, it's illegal to do that. So I make a motion that we approve this application number 643.
We have a motion from Commissioner Santiago. Is there a second?
Commissioner Salka will second.
We have a second. Any further comments from
Commissioner
members of the
Volpe here.
commission? Commissioner Volpe, go ahead.
I do have some comments for the commission. I did really enjoy the presentation tonight. I hear everything we're talking about. I learned a lot about accumulative noise and the difference between what causes it. I just am a little concerned about the abutting residential area. And again, I want to remind everyone that we're here to consider too the conformity of this within that residential area as well. And we have heard extensively, not only from in-person meetings and the public hearing, but also from letters that were sent to us, that there is some cause from the residents that put us in these seats to have this in their neighborhood. We have to remind ourselves that it is a neighborhood. And also too, at the same time, considering that the traffic study is extensive and was done very professionally, and we discussed it, we are living in, and I hate this phrase, unprecedented times that we're not really sure at full capacity and full performance what could have changed in that area. And I would rely on our POCD to tell us a little bit more about that traffic corridor that we still have yet to know. So I would just put that to everybody's attention. It is something that we should consider. Also, the safety, I know we haven't gotten to the site plan yet, but the safety of that exit on Meriden Avenue is concerning. I'm not sure if we have any kind of data regarding accidents at that intersection, but I can tell you right now that I've seen some pretty risky things. I may have done some pretty risky things. I've been around here for a while. People take chances over there. So I wanna bring that to your attention as well. We're not all experts on traffic studies here, but we have had a resident who has owned that property for quite some time tell us their concerns. So I understand that this is, use for that space, but in conforming with the surrounding residential zone, I would like to have everybody consider that as well in this decision process. Thank you. That's it.
Thanks, Christina. Rob Phillips, question for you. Is this the appropriate place, or is a site plan a more appropriate place to put any stipulations on there about the use of septic or the drainage issues that Jim Grappone and the applicant's engineer talked about? Is that something more appropriate for the site plan?
Well, I would recommend, unless you're going, well, a site plan, again, just a reminder, is an administrative type of action by the commission. So if the site plan meets the regulations, you have a duty to approve it. You really can't change the site plan, modify the site plan, unless there's, the ability to do so in your regulations. So I've always recommended that anywhere where there's discretionary or additional beyond regulations, as far as making sure that a special permit is conforming and compatible, I would recommend that you do any modifications through the special permit process.
Special permits. So in that matter, I mean, I'll turn to Peter and Bob in a second to see if they want to amend their motion. But let me throw another one out there that I have a concern on, is the buffer that's towards in my head, the northern part of the parcel, and I'm talking about where the turnaround comes on the parcel. And I'm gonna use an application that we approved at this commission, although a number of the members weren't here at the time. Sue and Peter might remember this, but we approved an application for the Dairy Queen up the street, and that was to extend their drive-through. And one of the things that happened as a result of our action was that the fence that we stipulated needed to be part of that was not put up until the conclusion of the construction of that extended drive-through. And what happened was the neighbor on that adjoining property had to live for a period of time, I think it was six months or so, with headlights in her backyard. And what I remember is getting emails from that neighbor saying, "Why do I have these headlights in my backyard? It doesn't make sense." And in retrospect, I thought about it and I thought to myself, well, we kind of should have said that the fence and the buffer needs to go up there pre-construction so that she wasn't inconvenienced by any of that. But that said, I think the buffer on the west side of the property too is a little bit thin. And I think that, if the commission was agreeable, that maybe we wanted to beef that up a little bit, although that's more of a site plan issue. I'm throwing it out there because of Rob's response.
Mr. Chair, Peter. So yeah, I had site plan things in regards to buffer as well. But I thought that was more site plan than this. But your comment in regard to putting up something to shield the area during construction, that would be more here, no? Is that kind of where you're getting to? To have a
I
buffer
think
during
what Rob's
construction?
response was when I asked the question about the site plan, or is it appropriate to put it on here, was to say that we're probably better off putting it here. We have more leeway at this point than we do with the site plan. The site plan is more of an administrative item. So just to be safe, we can add anything we want here right now.
So I don't have any problem amending the motion in regards to comments from Mr. Grappone in terms of drainage and things worked out. I could say I amend my motion to include comments from engineering to be stipulated as part of that. And would it be amenable, Mr. Chair, to say that a buffer be set up for surrounding area during construction along the property line? Is that getting to where you're going?
Yeah, I think so. The other thing I brought up, Peter, and I don't know what your sense is on it, is that, I wouldn't want to risk anyone's septic system being drained as a result of them deciding down the line that they want to tap into the septic. So my thought was maybe putting a stipulation in there that said that they're not allowed to tap into the septic and they had to use city water and sewer, both of which are available at that site currently. But it's your motion. It's up to you.
Well, I got no problem with that. If engineering is agreeable with that, I have no problem amending the motion for that.
Mr. Chair, could I comment on the buffer thing that you're discussing?
Sure, Steve, you can. Just give me a second though, because I want to make sure that Peter's motion gets worded correctly, and then that Bob Soka seconds the motion that Peter's amending. So Peter just said a couple of things that I'm going to turn to Jim Grappone in a second. So just prep yourself, Jim. But he said that one of the things he wanted to stipulate in there that your comments from earlier get included as part of the motion for approval. And also he asked a question about whether it would be wise of us to talk about the septic and the public and water and sewer. So Town Engineer Jim Grappone, give us your sense, please.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jim Grappone, Assistant Town Engineer. So with respect to the drainage, I had mentioned, and you could decide if this should be part of the motion, is the applicant shall conduct a deep pit at the proposed dry well location to determine the depth to the restricted layer and conduct the permeability test 1 foot below the proposed dry well depth. As far as the well and septic, they've already recommended going, the site plan shows a sewer connection, so I don't think there's any issues with the septic. If a well is drilled, I'm gonna put Rob on the spot. I thought there was something in the regulations that a well driller would have to certify the yield of the well, including the drawdown as it relates to surrounding properties. But I'm gonna refer that to Rob because I don't have the regulations in front of me.
Unfortunately, I don't have it in front of me either. I'd have to look that up, but I can see what I could find.
But we wouldn't be precluded from saying that they're not allowed to tie into a septic.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not speaking for the applicant, but I don't believe that septic was ever entertained with respect to this application.
Okay. So Peter, it's your motion again, so I'm going to come back to you. You heard what Jim said. Are you okay with incorporating or amending your motion along the lines of what Peter said, in addition to the piece on the buffer that you mentioned?
Yes, I absolutely am, Mr. Chair, in regards to the dry well location for engineering comments. So I'll amend my motion to approve and include the stipulations laid out by engineering, and also have a buffer be constructed along the area, along the border during construction.
Okay. So
Did that cover it?
you have a motion that's been amended. Go ahead, Peter, sorry.
So I think that covered it. So that's what I got.
Mr. Chairman, I'll amend my second to Peter's motion.
Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay, Robert's Rules of Orders. Steve Wolowski, you had raised your hand, so floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, I'm just not sure, how you propose a buffer. I understand what you're trying to do, but from a construction standpoint, I'm not sure how practical it is to ask them to finish from the outside in. That's just from a construction standpoint. There's machines, there's soil, there's things moving around. Going to put a buffer that's potentially going to get damaged, or I just don't know how practical it is to do that.
Yeah, I don't know that it's a permanent buffer necessarily. It could be a temporary buffer that's
Right.
placed up there to shield the abutting property owners from any effects.
Right.
So, I hear what you're saying, Steve.
Yeah, you need to clarify that then. So that would be my thought. Thank you.
Okay. Is there
Yeah, I
anything
agree with
else?
that, Steve.
Thank you, Peter. Anything else from the commission members? Peter, you look like you're talking, but I can't hear you. Are you talking? No? Okay. Rob, could I just ask a question? And I asked this question earlier. Regulation 8.02.11 states that in the event of a special permit approval, that the commission shall find that the location and size and the nature and intensity of the operations of such use, the site layout and design of the proposed buildings and structures associated with the proposed use, vehicular access to and from the site, and any proposed exterior illumination is A, compatible and consistent with the development and use of the neighborhood and adjacent properties. B, does not create a conflict with or impede the normal traffic on local roads or within the neighborhood. And C, does not hinder or discourage the orderly and appropriate development and or use of adjacent property and buildings. Are we required to find an affirmative or make an affirmative statement to those 3 points?
Yeah, it's my recommendation, as with all special permits, that the commission is looking at all of these general considerations and review criteria that's located in Section 8, special permit use. And in that case, that section you had just read, it does say, for any use located in or adjacent to a residential zone, the commission shall find. So, yeah, I would have to say that my recommendation would be to, if there's a motion to approve with modifications, or even deny, obviously we know that, but approve that there is findings that the proposed use is consistent with all of these, particularly that section 8.02.11.
Okay, so let's go back to Peter Santago, the motion maker, and ask him if he's agreeable to including in it as part of his motion a statement along those lines. And I think it could be as easy, Peter, as, I amend my motion to approve and make a finding consistent with 8.02.11 of our regulations. You ready? It's 8.02.11. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I will amend my motion again to say, by virtue of the special permit regulation 8.02.11, that this application is indeed consistent with what we have in those regulations.
Okay. Mr. Salka.
Mr. Chairman, I will amend my motion in support of the motion made by Commissioner Santago.
I know it's kind of a pain, but I think that eventually, if anything were to happen, you might appreciate that we're doing all this. So
last time I make a motion.
Yeah.
Now you know why I didn't make it.
Okay. Is there any further discussion for members of the commission? Hearing none, Rob, call the roll, please.
I just want to clarify what the potential conditions of approval here are. Are there any?
There's a condition of approval along the lines of what Jim Capone had stated. A condition of approval that they provide a buffer prior to construction to protect any abutting property owners from any residual effects from the construction of that site. And then there's a part of the motion too is to affirm 8.0211 of our regulations.
All right, thank you. I just want to make sure
that's
that's
it.
clear on the record. And there's no hours of operation stipulation, correct?
I didn't hear any.
Okay. All right, Warwick,
Commissioner Gwarek, yes.
Locks,
Commissioner Locke, yes.
Wolowski,
Commissioner Wolowski, yes.
Volpe,
Commissioner Volpe, no.
Santiago,
Santiago, yes.
Salka,
Salka, yes.
Chairman Hammersley.
Hammersley's a yes. Motion passes 6-1. Let's move on to the site plan. Item 8B, Class Act Auto Wash Site Plan Application for Proposed Car Wash, property located at 1656 Meriden Avenue, 291, 307 to 309 Meriden Waterbury Road in the B Zone, SPR 1812. This was tabled from our last meeting on February 2nd. Is there discussion?
Norm, could you put that plan back up, please?
Go ahead, Seb. You want to talk to us about this?
Yep. Mr. Chairman, Commission members, Seb Govina, planner with Kratz and Jones, represented the applicant. The proposal is subject to a public hearing, which you just voted on. It is for a car wash with 5,395 square foot building with 5 bays, one-way circulation with plenty of stacking. There's 360 feet of stacking coming in from the south, Route 322, 200 feet of stacking coming out of the facility up to Meriden Avenue. The proposal is for a 24 hours operation. The land area is 1.33 acres. The lot coverage allowed in this zone is 20%. We are proposing 9.29%. Site plan submitted included multiple sheets. One was the existing condition map showing the buildings and existing grades, showing that the drainage flow in this area is from east to west. We are maintaining those same flows generally. A second sheet was a grading and drainage plan meeting the zoning requirement of 0 increase in runoff, showing that two drainage systems will be installed. One will drain to Meriden Avenue. One will drain to Route 322, and one will drain to the northwest corner, which Jim Capone discussed at length. And he has also stipulated that some testing will be done to determine the restrictive layer at that location and the appropriateness of using a dry well for that area together with the best area. The utility plan shows how many things will be connected, how utilities will be connected to the existing town facility, which is water and sewer, and the drainage system. The landscape plan was submitted, shows the appropriate ratio of green space, the landscape berm along Meriden Avenue and 322, together with street trees as required by the zoning regulations. A lighting plan was provided showing that the appropriate lighting has no spillage on the neighbor's property. Multiple detail sheets are attached to the site plan showing the appropriate notes and details with the construction sequence and maintenance after the construction is done. Traffic report was provided indicating that the level of service will be maintained at a sea level and the impact of this proposal is minimal to the existing traffic in the area. We received staff comments. We responded in writing and reflected the changes reflecting those concerns on the plan. We have no problem with the stipulations that the commission has discussed. During the discussion of the public hearing, commissioners indicated concerns about some kind of a sign regarding the crosswalk in front of the exit driveway. The applicant has indicated he has no problem to do that. Traffic within the sign indicating the flow of the traffic, how it's supposed to be moving to the site. There'll be signs indicating that trailer trucks will not be allowed on the site. We discussed the length and noise level. We are using the latest technology, the same type of equipment that was used on another facility, which some commissioners have experienced the noise level being reasonable. And that questions of traffic, the traffic engineer responded to your comments. If you have additional comments now or questions, you'll be glad to answer. And there will be signs on the property that cars will not be able to idle for more than 3 minutes during the summer months. I believe the applicant stated that during the winter, the time could be longer. At this point, if you have any questions, we'll be glad to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Seth. I'm going to try to open this up a little bit more than we traditionally do and just ask if there's any members of the commission who have questions of the applicant to please pursue those. Commissioner Santiago.
I wonder if we could bring the site plan up to view, Rob?
Rob, Norm, can you put the site plan up?
Seth's got someone to do that for him, Peter.
Okay. So, Seth, while they're doing that, so in regard to signage, and so all the things you already said, that's great. Are you gonna, and I didn't catch it, if you did, I apologize. Are you gonna have a enter only, exit only type signs as well?
What kind of signage?
Enter only, exit only, no entrance, that kind of thing?
Yes, and I believe that some of the detail sheets have sign details on it.
Great. So when I look at the site plan though, and I couldn't see it, if you could point it out to me. If I'm entering on Marin Waterbury Road and I don't want to wash my car, I only want to use the vacuum. So I can't go in there and take a right because you have some cement there. So I have to go all the way around, and do I have to go through the wash to get to the vacuum, or is there another? I thought I saw on the side of the building a road to get through there, but I wasn't sure if I only want to use to vacuum my car. So I'm wondering how someone would get to the entrance to only go vacuum, because people do that all the time.
On the cover sheet, there is a graphic of the building and the traffic and the drive lanes.
Yeah.
To the east of the building, there's a drive lane there. You could go through there to go to the vacuums.
So that is where it's on the side of the building there, right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, because it said, like, on the colored one, they had like a concrete color going there when you showed the colored one, and I wasn't sure how that was. So because people do that. So and you can't cut through. So there's only and I guess my question, that's concrete, not gravel, next to the entranceway, right? If I go in on Marin Waterbury Road to the right-hand side there, yeah, there we go. So that's that little white space, that's concrete, right?
Yes, I believe so, yeah.
So nobody could jump that. Because because the reason that I'm asking is that if I only want to vacuum my car, and I know the vacuums are there, I may try to go in there, try to take a right to avoid going the line, or come in on the Marin Avenue side and take a left, to go do that. And I get you can't prevent that part of it unless you put a sign there. So it's just traffic flow with people not following orders. I know, about a month or so ago, we had a kind of a similar conversation with the Dunkin' Donuts over by the movie theater, people not following the rules, how a site plan could kind of aid in preventing that when people don't do it, just to have a good flow of traffic through things. So that was more more of my question as far as, you know, lines on the, you can have lines on the pavement too, Seth? Or
We
no?
can have signs there indicating the direction of the flow, and we can put sign indicating to vacuums. And that concrete striping you see there, that's for the crosswalk to go from the handicap spot to the building.
Gotcha. Okay. Right there. Okay, I see where you're talking about. Okay. I appreciate that you're doing some good landscaping there. I guess, I know you have it, but what trees and foliage are you doing along the edges? If you could explain all that.
What was your question?
In terms of along the borders, what foliage and what sort of barriers do you have along the edges? You have fencing as well as that.
Yeah, on the north side, this is indicated on the landscaping plan, but on the north side, we have a proposal for a 6-foot stockade fence, together with a row of arborvitaes, a solid wall of arborvitaes, single row. And then as you go west, there's a double row of arborvitaes. And then on the north side, there's a combination of deciduous trees and evergreens, together with low shrubbery. And on the west side, you have a double row of arborvitaes. You can see that on the landscaping plan right here, double row of arborvitaes here. And these are deciduous and evergreens on the north side.
Okay, thank you. One of the residents who's on the, I guess we were looking at this on the left-hand side, whose driveway is near your driveway, originally expressed some concern that, you know, people may drive up his driveway versus yours. And so I'm wondering how well lit, or, you know, how I don't know how we can avoid that, but in terms of the placement of that, but you know, have a well-marked entranceway there, so to avoid people from going into the wrong spot.
Yeah, the driveway is 24 to 30 feet wide, our proposed driveway. His driveway is probably 10 to 12 feet. Our driveway will be, clearly marked and with the landscaping, so it's pretty visible how you enter the facility. And if someone makes a mistake, it's very unlikely, I believe.
Okay. That's all the questions I had for right now, Mr. Chair. I'm sure my fellow commissioners have more. I won't take too much more time.
Thanks, Peter. Is there anyone else who has any other questions?
This is Commissioner Locks.
Commissioner Locks, go ahead.
Yes, there was a concern with some of the neighbors about possibility of people parking there either overnight or leaving their vehicles unattended. Is there a way we could get signage stating that in the parking spots that they can't stay for long periods of time?
I'm sure we can. Dave, could you confirm that for me?
Yes, this is Dave, 601 Winding Ridge, Southington. I understand your concern of vehicles parking on site after hours or leaving their vehicles, but understand that our facilities are constantly under surveillance. So if we see a vehicle parked that's unattended, we typically will address it right away.
Okay.
No one is allowed to park, but I prefer to refrain from putting signs that say no parking because it's confusing to the customer. So in other words, you know, they park in a certain area to vacuum. I don't want to confuse them by saying no parking for extended period of time, because then I'd have to say, well, what is that extended period of time? But we can assure you that, you know, like our neighbors, the gas station and Dunkin' Donuts, we don't allow people to park unattended because it's just it's a safety precaution.
Sue, you're muted. Sue, I think you're muted there, Sue.
I said there was concerns about the neighbors, about people walking through their backyards and what have you, and I just want to protect that. If it's attended and it's being watched, that would be fine. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Sue. Seb, can I ask you to just talk about some of the architectural features of this this structure? What's it going to look like from the roadway? And I also would ask you to throw your sheet LP2, which is your lighting plan, up there, so we could see what kind of lighting units you're using, and give people a sense of what that will look like.
Sure. Norm, could you put first the 3D elevation sheet on the screen, and then later on the lighting plan? This 3D view was showed at the public hearing, and you see how things will look from the intersection coming from Meriden. The upper view is the view coming down from the Meriden side at the top of the sheet. The second view is looking from Meriden Waterbury Road, looking northeast. And similar view closer to the intersection, you'll see on the bottom of the sheet the vacuums stations and the front of the building. And this other view is from the east looking west, more of a pigeon, like more a bird's eye view type of thing, showing the vacuum stations and the building. And the building materials will be, that is another view looking west from the intersection. The building materials will be concrete blocks with a retro style type of architecture. Dave, if you wanted to add to that, you're familiar with your building plans as to what you want to achieve there for looks?
Actually, the renditions that you're looking at are certainly very similar to what we currently have in Meriden, and it really places everything accurately. So, is there a specific question on how it's laid out?
No, I just wanted to have a view of what that looked like again for the record. That's why I asked the question.
I see.
Just to provide a visual of what we'd be looking at if with this structure. Any other questions for members of the commission?
It's Commissioner Coles.
Yeah.
I have just a few comments that I'd like to tweeze out along the borders of the property, more specifically regarding how when traffic is turning into the site, headlights are deflected away from the adjoining property, the house to the west of the property. And also considering any idling cars, if that fence is going to be adequate enough to be able to muffle some of the sound and give some peace of mind, quality of life for those neighbors. So you have on the plan, it looks like there's a 6-foot vinyl stockade fence, correct?
Yes.
Is there, and I don't know, and I'm looking at it, it looks like it's a pretty,
wall.
And a wall?
Yes.
So on that western side of the property, it's a block wall, Sev?
I would have to defer that to Dave, what kind of wall they're going to put there, but there seems to be a wall and a fence. Dave?
Yes, that would be a block wall, typical block wall like you see in front of actually the hospital downtown. Put in a similar wall a couple of years ago. So it's the 4-foot blocks stacked up. They're architectural walls, nice looking wall. And yes, there will be a fence on top of the wall. So really your overall height is substantial. And your comment in terms of blocking noise, yes, the fence and the wall will reduce the decibels. It depends upon which data you look at, but we've seen between 5 and 10 decibel reductions based on a wall, based on the type of wall and the type of fence, certainly.
So we're looking at about 10 feet between the block wall and the stockade fence?
Yes.
Yes, I would say so. Yes.
Does that, maybe this question is for Rob. Rob, does that take a special requirement for a 10-foot fence?
It's not a 10-foot.
It's not 10 feet.
It's not a 10-foot fence.
Right.
It's a 4-foot block wall, and then on top of that is a 6-foot fence, and that's where the arborvitaes will be as well. So it's a 4-foot wall made of block, and on top of that wall, there will be the arborvitaes, and behind that will be the fencing.
Oh, so I'm looking at the drawing here, the rendering, and I passed the front of the. I'm trying to give you hand signals. Bear with me. So at the the south side of the property, the southwest point along Meriden Waterbury Road, there's a circle there. Yeah, perfect. You got the dot on there, and then along just to the north of that, along the property line is the row of arborvitaes, where we have so those arborvitaes are planted into a 4-foot wall. I'm kind of guessing, right? That's what we're looking at here. I guess it's just so you understand where I'm coming from, and I tried to set this up in the beginning, is I just want to make sure that as people are turning in at night with their high beams on or whatever, the folks to the west this way, are going to be protected from that oppressive. Well, I guess we'll say oppressive light. If I was sleeping, I would find it oppressive. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. That's why we did it like that, so that we don't interfere, number one, with the headlights coming in for those neighbors, and number two, to exaggerate our entrance. That's the other way that we wanted to make sure that that guy doesn't go down that neighbor's driveway. So we put the wall, the arborvitaes, with the fencing, with the signage. We'll say, hey, this is our entrance, and it won't interfere with those neighbors when they're taking that turn. We'll be able to block those lights.
Gotcha. So then at the end of the arborvitaes, all the way to the rear of the property going north, that's also the combination of block wall and stockade fence on top of that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's tall. All right. I think, Mr. Chair, I think that's what I was looking for as far as some information. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Caleb. Good questions. But I agree with you. I want to, as I said earlier, I thought protecting people from any light effects is an important thing. So I'm glad you brought that up. Any other comments or questions for members of the commission?
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
My question would be, so from the neighbor to the west, Commissioner Wolowski, I'm sorry, it's going to be a 4-foot wall with a 6-foot fence. Is that what your view is going to be from that neighbor's yard? He's going to look at a 4-foot wall with a 6-foot fence on top of it, and then that and the arborvitaes are on the inside of that on your property?
Yes, in the first part of the driveway, Mr. Chairman, this is Seb Bovino.
Yep.
In the first part of the driveway, entering the driveway to prevent light spillage into the headlights into the neighbors, we have 2 rows of arborvitaes with a 6-foot fence.
No, that's not what I was asking. I'm saying that the view from the neighbor's house, he's going to look at a 4-foot wall with a 6-foot fence.
Yes.
So he's going to see a 10-foot structure with no landscaping on it. That's what he's looking at. And then the neighbor to the north gets a 6-foot stockade fence with nothing on it other than, so on both sides, neighbors are looking at a fence and a wall.
No, just the one on the west side for portion of it. Then as you go down the driveway, that neighbor to the west will have a landscaping, which is evergreen and trees on the northwest corner there. And then as you come around the corner on the east and the north side of the driveway, you have a double row of evergreens on the west side and a single row of evergreens with a 6-foot fence next to it, not on top of each other, but next to it. So you have a sound barrier, so to speak, the greenery and the fence that prevents the headlights and the sound for traveling through.
I understand with what you're saying, but what I'm asking is what is the view from the neighbor's yard? Are they looking at greenery or are they looking at fencing?
The fence is on their side. The fence
So-
is on their side. They'll be looking at a fence.
Yeah, so to the west side, it's a 4-foot wall with a 6-foot fence. So they're looking at a
Proportionate.
10-foot structure with no greenery, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, there's no room there on our side for greenery, because we want to have that additional lane. There's some green space next to his garage along his property line that we are preserving, but we have no room there to add some greenery on our side. We're preserving what's there on the property line. The house, his house is forward a little bit, but you're correct. Where the garage is, there'll be a 6-foot fence with a wall.
Yeah.
We could reduce the height of the fence. We don't have to put a 6-foot fence. We could do a 4-foot fence.
I just think some greenery would be beneficial to the neighbors on the other side and or in conjunction with the fence. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I wouldn't want to look at a 10-foot wall along my property line.
This is Dave Carabetta. I can certainly appreciate your concern of looking at fencing. You know, I don't think you could have both. You know, if you wanted to eliminate the fencing and have the arborvitaes there instead of the fence, you know, we wouldn't object to that at all. But I don't believe there would be enough room to adequately have the wall, the fence, and the shrubbery. But again, exchanging the fence for the arborvitaes, we'd have no objection to that. And the wall is not just a wall, it is an architectural wall.
I'm familiar with what you're referring to, but it's still overall it's 10 feet tall, and that's in his front yard. I don't know if I'd want to look at that every day from my front yard. That's all. I'm trying to. I don't want to say that let's not do the fence. Let's do all trees. But I think that in some respects that would look better for all things considered. But I don't know if that's my decision, obviously.
Well, again, we wouldn't object to, we want it to look appealing to our neighbors as well.
Steve, I share some of your concern. You know, the buffer on that side is a little bit thin, and you know, I too am a little bit concerned that it might be, let's just say, not as attractive as it could be. So,
Mr. Chairman,
who's that? Was that Sev?
Commissioner Salker, can I make a comment?
Commissioner Salker, go ahead.
One possible option. First of all, when you're looking at the schematic, right up against the wall is the garage. Is that correct? And the house, how far is the house away from the actual fence?
60 feet approximately.
So we're talking 60 feet. And I'm just wondering what would be the possibility as far as our commission goes is let the property owner work with the house, the owner on the property to the west, and let them come to an agreement of what they'd rather have. You got an option of noise abatement when you have the 10-foot. You could have the 4-foot wall with a 4-foot fence, bring it 8 feet. But is this something that the property owner could work with the homeowner and let them decide which would be better? That way there, we got a compromise, and we're not sitting here as a commission and dictating what would be best for that property owner on the west side.
This is Dave Carabetta again. No, we wouldn't object to that. We'd have no problem speaking with our neighbor. We could show him what's proposed. We could do a few feet so that he could get an idea of what it looks like. And if he'd prefer greenery instead of the fencing, again, we'd have no problem doing that.
So I think Bob Soka, I think that that's a great option. I think that if we're going to work that into a motion, that motion, you might want to set a limit on the height of it so that we're not dealing with giving the property owner the ability to build a 20-foot fence over there, you know, and you say, you know, no higher than 10 feet in total size, and give them the option of which one they prefer. And then it's up to the applicant to have that conversation with them and figure out what it is. But I appreciate Dave, I appreciate your willingness to work with that. I think that what Steve was saying, which I agree with, I think Bob agrees with it as well, and probably other members too. But I think what we're trying to look at is what is attractive from his side of the fence, no pun intended. But you know, you want he's got to look at that too, and you don't want that property owner to be looking at something that, you know, looks like the Berlin Wall or something. Not that I'm saying you guys would do that, but you know, the approval goes with the property, and if you were to sell it, who knows who's going to slide in there. So,
Well, there's one thing I can guarantee, and that is it'll be a far improvement as to what it is now.
okay.
So it's going to look good, believe me.
Okay. Is there any other comments or questions for members of the commission?
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner Gwark.
Yep. Go ahead, Jeff.
I had a question for Sev. On that property line that we're talking about, the southwestern side, there's shrubs there now. There's a few trees. Is that right on the property line? Are those all going, or are those the neighbors' shrubs and trees on that western side there, the southwestern corner?
No, we're not touching the neighbors' trees. We're working within our boundary, and we're doing some grading within our boundary and then replanting that area with trees and shrubs.
Okay, so would you, I guess that if those are still on his property, or some of them, I guess that would still provide somewhat of a buffer for him and the 10-foot wall we're talking about here. But you know, like it.
Oh, I see
like,
what you mean. Alongside the garage, there is a tree line. You're correct. There's a tree line that exists right now. So some of the trees are on his property, and those we will not touch unless he wants us to cut them down. But we will not touch those.
Okay, yeah, I was just wondering because I just saw that there was a tree line and some plants or shrubs or brush or whatever you want to call it along his driveway. So I didn't know if those were all coming down or that would provide a natural buffer as well. But I agree that it's good to have the applicant talk with the neighbor and see what they want to come up with together. So they're both happy.
By the way, there is a concrete wall that the neighbor has on his property next to the garage. He already has a concrete wall there.
Okay, so that's on his property as well. That's not the concrete wall you're talking about. That's just his own small retaining wall.
Yeah, there's a concrete wall that he has built on his property there next to his garage.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I have a comment, please.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Salka, just one question. I guess it's for Jim Capone. Jim, on the east side, on the exit out of the property, I know down on off of Queen Street, I think it's Spring Street, at that restaurant, we put I forget what you call it on the road, a block of some sort, where cars are supposed to stop so people can get out of that driveway. Is that something that we could consider on Meriden Avenue at the exit? Or is that because it's a state road, we have no control of that?
That's a great idea and question. I think we could propose a do not block the box.
That's the one.
At that exit, which would probably help with the sight line. So we could have the chief of police make that recommendation to DOT.
Would that be part of the motion on this application, Mr. Chairman?
I think that it doesn't hurt. I think that ultimately it's this, whether that flies or not, if you will, is ultimately up to the State Traffic Commission, who's going to be the one who's going to weigh in on what that looks like. But I think that that's a good step. I mean, I think that we throw it out there and see what their thoughts are. I agree with that. I mean, that's a brilliant idea, actually. in my mind.
I tend to agree with you.
I have no doubt, Bob, no doubt. Is there any other comments or questions for members of the commission? Don't see any. Can we get a motion on this?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Salk, I'll make a motion to approve SPR 1812 with the two stipulations that the fence on the west side be no higher than 10 feet and that the applicant will work with the abutting property owner on the quality and the type of fencing on the west side, and that we would look into the possibility of a stop the box on Meriden Avenue at the exit on the east side of the property.
Can I just ask a clarification, Rob Phillips? When you state that the fence is no higher than or equal to or no higher than 10 feet, you're including the cement blocking, right? We're not talking about the actual fence.
We're talking the total height of the blocks plus the fencing. Yes.
Thank you.
We got a motion for Commissioner Salka. Do we have a second?
Second.
Who was that? Steve? I can't see you, Steve. That's why I asked.
Sorry.
It's not your fault. So, okay, so we have a motion for Commissioner Salka, a second by Commissioner Wolowski. Is there any further conversation on this? Seeing none, Rob, can you call the roll, please?
Sure. While I do that, if the applicant can just take this screen sharing off. Gorick?
Commissioner Gorick, yes.
Locke?
Commissioner Locke, yes.
Wolowski?
Commissioner Wolowski, yes.
Volpe?
Commissioner Volpe, yes.
Santiago?
Santiago, yes.
Salka?
Salka, yes.
Hammersley?
Hammersley's a yes. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to item 8C, Livewell Alliance Incorporated special permit application for expansion of existing campus to include additional structures for semi-independent living, greenhouse and facility center. The expansion will include renovations to the existing structure, property located at 1261 South Main Street, B zone, parcel size 6.5 acres, SPU 645. This was tabled for the last meeting on February 2nd. So we open it up to discussion.
This is Commissioner Locke. I'd like to make a motion to approve SPU 645.
We have a motion for Commissioner Locke. Is there a second? Let's back up for a second, though, before we do that. Sue, do you want to include those four?
I didn't get there yet. I was going to
Okay.
say the four stipulations that were discussed between Mulberry Gardens and Livewell.
Okay. So we have a motion for Commissioner Locke. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Salko with a second. Is there a discussion? Seeing none, Rob, can you call the roll, please?
Gorick?
Commissioner Gorick, yes.
Locke?
Commissioner Locke, yes.
Wolowski?
Commissioner Wolowski, yes.
Volpe?
Commissioner Volpe, yes.
Santiago?
Santiago, yes.
Salka?
Salka, yes.
Hammersley?
Hammersley's a yes. Motion passes 7-0. I'm moving on to item 8D, Livewell Alliance, Inc., site plan application for the expansion of existing campus property located at 1261 South Main Street in a B zone, parcel size 6.5 acres, SPR number 1813. This is tabled from February 2nd. Attorney Martaccio, do you have a presentation on this?
Very briefly, Mr. Chairman, as you're aware from our previous meeting, on behalf of my client, I submitted a very detailed summary, including renderings, traffic study, lighting. There were several comments that were provided from the staff that were responded to both last week as well as some that were received today. I hope and I believe that all of the concerns or comments have been addressed adequately to allow us to proceed forward.
there any conversation from members of the commission? We did see this the last time. Have that brought up, or? Anyone?
Mr. Chair, it's Commissioner Gork.
Commissioner Ward, go ahead.
Just reading through the minutes, they were waiting on the inland wetlands, and we got the approval, right? I saw that in the package. Is that correct?
That's correct. It was granted last week, 2 days following our last hearing.
Perfect. That's it. Thanks.
Good catch, Jeff. So, a conversation on this? Can we get a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve SPR 1813.
Got a motion from Commissioner Salka. Do we have a second?
Second by Commissioner Locks.
Commissioner Locks with a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Rob, can you call the roll, please?
Work.
Commissioner Gork, yes.
Locks.
Commissioner Locks, yes.
Woloski.
Wolowski, yes.
Volpe.
Commissioner, yes.
Santiago.
Santiago, yes.
Salka.
Commissioner Salka, yes.
Hammersley.
Hammersley's a yes. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to 8F, Northridge Estates.
Thank you all for your time.
What's it? Yeah, thank you, Lou. Great job. Congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
8F, Northridge Estates, release a $25,000 maintenance bond. This is S1302. Jim Grappone, do you want to talk to us about this?
Yes, this is for Northridge phases 3, 4, and 5. The maintenance period is expired, and we're ready to release this maintenance bond.
They've met all obligations that they have
Yes.
under the bond? Okay. Is there any discussion from members of the commission on this? If not, can we get a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion. We approve S1302.
We have a motion for Commissioner Salka. Do we have a second?
Santiago, I'll second.
Santiago is a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none. Rob, can we do a voice vote on this? I think so,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All those in favor say yes. Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. 8G, Kings Ridge, release of an 18,110 erosion and sedimentation bond, SPR 1780. Jim Grappone, what do you got?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Lovely is down to his last unit over at Kings Ridge. It's ready for action based on completion of his obligations.
Okay. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion. We approve SPR 1780.
Salka with a motion. Do we have a second?
Santiago, I'll second again.
Santiago with a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say yes.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 9, administrative items. Rob Phillips, what do you have?
I don't have anything, although I will say that I'll have plans for you at the next meeting for administrator review authorization for police department, Southington Police Department, expansion of the parking lot to the rear of the building. It's really a minimal type of proposal, and it's really not visible from the street. So,
Okay. Under item 10, item scheduled for public hearing. What do you got, Rob?
nothing for public hearing.
All right. Item 11.
Let me just
New applications.
really quickly clarify the 830G Landing Street application that you're aware of. I'm just waiting to see what they're going to produce as far as revised regulations. They've given me a draft, and I've provided comments, and I'm waiting for another draft to come in. Once that comes in, I'll be comfortable in scheduling that for one of your future meetings. Right now, I'm looking at March 2nd, but I can't tell you for sure yet.
And so at this point, Rob, that's an incomplete application, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Any new applications you want to bring to our attention?
No, just we did receive one today for a 3-lot subdivision at 351 West Street. But our system hasn't been updated yet, so I'm not sure what we're going to do with that one as far as when we're going to get down an agenda.
Okay. Just before we go to item 12, which is an adjournment, I just want to bring it up again because I haven't gotten any volunteers, but we're looking for somebody to represent us at the Capital Region Council of Governments Land Use Planning Subcommittee group. So if there's anybody out there who is interested, please let me know so I can get you up there. Jim Macchio was the person who was doing that for the past year, and obviously he stepped aside, but and I've done this in the past. I think it's a good way to get together with other members of planning and zoning commissions around the state and sort of hear what they're doing and so on. So I'm still looking for somebody to step forward on that.
Mr. Chair, this is
yeah.
Commissioner Volpe. Could you send me some information on it?
Yeah, I'll be happy to, Christina. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'll get that for you right away. Is there, and then I know that Rob and I have had some conversation, I guess on a town-wide level, they're talking about doing some hybrid meetings sometime in the next couple of months as the positivity rate continues to decrease, which, knock on wood, it appears to be doing. I think we're going to try to get back into an in-person meeting format, at least on some level. So if anyone has an issue with that, I appreciate hearing. I'm kind of taking the stance that it's all or none type of thing, but I think we have to start to look at that. So I don't want to make an assumption about what anyone's hesitation might be, and I'm sure they're all legitimate. I just would like to know if someone has a problem, if they could just let me know so that I can be aware of that as we go forward with that type of stuff.
I kind of have a problem until I get vaccinated, which I'm on the next list. But
well, I'm not asking you to expose any medical secrets or anything like that. I think for planning purposes, I think we'd like to know just so we can accommodate or figure out what we're going to end up doing when that time comes. So again, I just wanted to put it on everyone's radar.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think my only concern, and I assume that this would come from the town manager's office on how we're supposed to do these things, but my only concern is not necessarily for us per se. And speaking to what Peter just said, we're close enough, but the folks in the audience, I do have a concern with how many people we're going to let in, and if we can effectively do public comment in a situation like that.
So it's kind of a hybrid model, Caleb, and I appreciate where you're coming from. So I'm not quite sure what that's going to look like necessarily, but again, I was made aware of this. I'm trying to make sure that everyone else is aware of it and just start thinking about it. And we'll start, as things start to roll out, I'll make sure that everyone's included in that information as well. And we'll get there. I personally would like to see it sooner rather than later, just because I think it lends itself to an efficient meeting. But I get that other people have other things going on, and I'm going to respect that as well. So, but I hear what you're saying. Is there anything else that any other member wants to bring up?
Commissioner Volpe here.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that something to just consider, since we're just throwing ideas out there, would be maybe the time, like considering where we're at right now, considering what time we show up. I'm just saying, like we should cap it at like a couple hours and figure that out. It's just a suggestion. I think the longer that we're all in that space together, right, that's something that we should consider. And obviously we'll probably be wearing masks and stuff, but I just want to throw that out there that like these things can go pretty late, Yeah. So.
Yeah. I hear you.
I've been advocating for a snack bar, so I don't know if that's gonna happen. I'm just kidding.
Well, you could have one at your house. I mean, you could have one right in front of you. We don't even know it. Who knows?
All that discounted chocolate. I know how much each of you enjoys chocolate.
Yeah. Well, okay. If we don't have anything else, can we get a motion to adjourn this evening?
Commissioner Volpe will make a motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Volpe with a motion. A second from Commissioner Woloski.
Oh, well, okay.
He raised his hand.
Well, here we go with the emojis.
I really love that I started this.
All those in favor say yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Any opposed? There's none. We're adjourned.
Have a good night, everybody.
Hey, folks, I think that you've demonstrated, you know, the skill with which you were able to get through this stuff. I continue to be impressed by everybody. So, you know, thank you for that. And